Hello and welcome to the Silent Evil Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I am Cameron.
And we are coming at you with Metro 4, Metro Awakening, the VR version of Metro. Probably the black sheep of all these games in a sense. And it's only because VR is such like a niche section that there's not always as many people you can like sell it to or talk about it to or whatnot. You know, I get it. It's an extra peripheral that you got to buy that most people don't want to get. But no matter what, though, it's like this is one of those games that I remember when it came out. I was like, oh, yeah, I just like ended up buying it like kind of right away. I think it might have went on sale kind of fast, but VR games are always half the price anyways. But so it's been sitting in my collection like all the other Metro games always were with great intention to finally be played. But I'm glad we finally sat down and went through this, especially after going through Metro 1, 2, and 3 and then playing this one because it does make a difference. It's not like this one's just kind of a spin-off or anything like that. No. This one all adds to the story of the first couple. And yeah, just in itself, this a VR game. It's pretty darn dialed in. I learned that it comes from the guys that did Arizona Sunshine, you know, so they're that Dutch company or whatnot that's put that together. And I know Arizona Sunshine, like when I first got my Quest or whatever, that was one of those ones. If you looked up like what's the top 5 games I should get for that thing, that one always was like literally in like top 3 forever. And strangely, I never played those games. And then when I realized it was related to Metro, I saw it on sale. I was like, $10. Hell yeah, I'll buy the Arizona Sunshine remake. And so I was kind of testing that one out today, and I was like, "Oh, this game is extremely dialed in."
Yeah,
I was like, "Wow!" I did not realize. Like, I'll say it's almost even a little bit more dialed in, like control wise, even to like Metro.
Really,
you know, because you can interact with so many things in there, and it's like it's got a giant amount of zombies, and it's cool little survival horror, and I like the fact that it takes place like in broad daylight. You know, but I was way more impressed with that than I thought I was gonna be. I'm like, well, it makes sense. It's on that top 5 list.
Right. Yeah, see, I don't know terribly too much about this development studio at all. Like, I found out after the fact, like you just said, you know, that they're the Arizona Sunshine developers. Never have played that game. It's popped up in my wish list, or not my wish list, but my Steam feed like 20 billion times. I've seen it forever, you know, and it's been a thing. There's actually Arizona Sunshine 2 out now too, so like they made a sequel to it.
Yeah.
But I found it funny because like Spencer hits me up like, I don't know, 4-ish months ago, and he's like, you know, we should really like, we both have VR, like we should totally do this for the survival horror podcast that we do. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you know, like, what are you thinking? And he goes, Metro. And I was like, hold on. Like, if we do that, we have to play the trilogy first. So that's why we played through the whole fucking trilogy.
But so yeah, it all led to this VR game.
Yeah, it literally it was another one of the. It was like Requiem earlier in the year, and you're just like, oh no, dude, like we have to play Code Veronica. You know, like,
yeah, but my logic thinking that the Requiem Resident Evil 9 was related to Code Veronica.
Right.
No, it's related to Outbreak.
Right.
Well, yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
They both had A names in it, Alexandria and like whatever.
Yeah.
Can't remember what the mom's name was, but
yeah. But I found this so fucking cool. To have all the flavor text of the last 3 games that we just covered, you know, walking into this, and like reading the descriptions, not really watching any footage, not watching any reviews, nothing, just walking into this more or less blind outside of reading the Steam description of what the game is. And I'm like, oh, it's some doctor that's like trying to find medicine for his wife, and you know, like it's just an offshoot. It's just a different, you know, it's still Metro, but it's a new character, it's a new, you know, storyline. It has nothing to do with Archie and blah 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 blah. Going through all that, boy, was I surprised by the end of this game, which we'll get to. But super rad.
I never put 2 and 2 together until the very end of the game. I was like,
literally the final cutscene.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, granted, I've only played the Metro games, you know, just this one time through in the last couple of months. So even some of the details, so that's kind of will go over my head a little bit more than if I played them like multiple times.
Oh yeah,
but it's still, it was like the very end, like. It all came together now. Okay.
Yeah. But I think like story aside, because we'll get to story stuff here in a bit. But like story aside, like the fact that most of the mechanics throughout the totality of the trilogy is here in this game, and they're all interactive. It's like, I don't know, like the flashlight charger thing, for example. Like throughout the entire time we're playing through the trilogy, it's literally just a couple button presses, you know, like you hold R1, that modifier button, slam up, you know, and then hit Y or whatever, you know, and you start charging up your flashlight or whatever. In here, it's like it's very tactile. Like I love this about like being able to pull out a physical object in your hand or whatever, you know, you're holding it with your right hand. There's a crank on the left hand. You're spinning that bitch, you know, like as fast as you can, especially in those moments where like you're in combat and your light goes out, you know, and it's just dark because this game is very fucking dark. You know, like
I literally turned the brightness all the way up on it, like I mostly always do on a game. You know, it's like no, you max that brightness out and so on. But even still, like even when it does go out, it's like, oh yeah, it gets dark.
Yeah, yep, yeah, but yeah, like I said, just all the mechanical things in this game I thought were just rad, dude. They were so much fun, and scary too. The game's actually fucking scary, like you know, like so.
Well, it's one of those ones. I guess I gotta say it's about the light mechanic because there was a handful of things there. First off, though, because you know you got to reach over and you grab from here and you pull your backpack out. And I remember for the longest time I was like, or no, maybe you pull it this way because you do that, they pull your guns out. So you pull it over your left shoulder. But then I was like, well, why the hell is the light like on the right side? So I always have to like cross my arms like I'm doing like some like X-Force like thing to grab the thing there. I kind of realized as time went on, you could twist the backpack around and make it a little bit easier.
Right.
But at first I was like, why the hell is it on the completely opposite side, you know, of what I need to grab? Lo and behold, though, as the game goes on, more important things appear on the other side, like your gas mask. So I guess that's why they chose the positioning for it.
Yeah.
But I also liked how you could also take that thing and you're cranking it up and it charges your light, but you could also walk around and if you keep spinning it, that light's like extremely bright.
Yeah, just super bright.
Like a couple seconds like that, but if you keep cranking it, it always is bright.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's so many just like individual things like that, like you're saying, you know. So I'm right-handed. I assume you're right-handed as well, correct? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
dominant. So like your dominant hand with the right hand, like, you know, dominant hand right shoulder, that pulls out your primary gun, you know, like, so like that would be like your AK or shotgun or your, you know, like the various amounts of like primary weapons that you have. I really love that you just had it just right on your hip, you know, just like your bottom right hip or whatever, be able to pull out your pistol, you know, like you just pull your grip trigger or whatever next to your hip and you pull out the pistol. Left side, so like non-dominant hand hip, you know, placement or whatever, you pull that grip trigger and you pull out like your healing syringe, you know, to like jam into your body or whatever to heal yourself. Dominant hand left shoulder, you're pulling that out and that's all your primary weapons, you know, like, so there's a feature there. Non-dominant hand left shoulder, pulling that out, that's your backpack feature from Exodus, basically, you know, like it's all right there. The way, you know, it took me a good minute, you know, like probably the first like couple levels to like really kind of get used to the controls and whatnot. But by the end of this game, bro, like I felt like fucking John Wick. Like by the end of the shit, you know, just pulling out weapons, having such scarcity with ammo and whatnot, switching between shotgun to AK to fucking, you know, like the blow dart, you know, and shit like that, you know, just like so much cool stuff you can do in this game, you know, and like how proficient you can get with, you know, active reloads and things like that too, which was pretty fun. So
yeah, no, and I'm kind of glad because those VR games they're sort of a set design of controls because in those initial games everybody was like experimenting and you know that's to be had like where everything should be. And I like nowadays you can kind of jump into like a first person shooter VR, like I'm gonna say one like in like the last, let's just say 5 or so years, and generally things are in like you know, if I reach down to my hip I'm gonna probably pull out my pistol, you know, if I reach to my chest I'll probably pull out some ammo, you know, that kind of thing. It's not just, you know, where you want to kind of set it at, you know, based on the developer. So I've gotten pretty fluid in those just from playing a handful of the games throughout time on the Quest and whatnot. And just getting used to like, you know, the quick reloads and everything like that. And there was a video we were kind of like looking at that was kind of going over a whole like sort of section and review and lore and all that stuff of the game. And the guy talked about that you could take a clip of ammo and just combine it with the gun and it had like an automatic reload thing. I never saw that the entire game through.
Yep.
I always did the thing where I was like, I would clip out the pistol and I'd drop the clip in the air and I'd grab it with the other hand, put it to my chest so it wouldn't fall on the floor. Then that would reload it, clip it in. And well, you'd only have to cock it if you went all the way through your ammo. But
yeah. And similar with me too, because like I recognized that was a feature pretty early on that you like you grab your chest, you pull out a magazine or whatever, you're holding your pistol or whatever weapon you have. You take that piece of ammo and you basically put it where the ammo should go, like where the magazine should go. That magazine that you have in the gun would just automatically fall out, go into your inventory. Meanwhile, you're loading up this other clip or whatever. That was cool and all. The problem is that every time that it would happen, because it would always happen in the middle of combat, for me or whatever. So like you're already panicked, because like you're trying to like, dominant hand, right shoulder, pull out your primary weapon, you grab for the ammo, like you slap it up against there. You watch the clip drop out of the gun. Meanwhile, you're plugging in the new one or whatever. I'm thinking that I dropped a clip on the ground, which is fucking detrimental in this game. Like if you lose magazines. So yeah. I'm like looking around on the ground, meanwhile getting attacked by whatever's attacking me, and just like failing, dying at that point, and whatnot. So more often than not, like that feature got me killed. I could see that if I was cognizant of it and I knew that was going to happen every time, like I'll probably use it like on my next run of the game or whatever, but there's just something really special about like holding that gun, like your pistol or whatever, like holding that, hitting your A button or whatever, that slide, the magazine slides out, you catch it with your hand, just like you said, you slap it to your chest, you pull out a new one, you slap it in, cock it, reload, like it's the fluidity of it. It can be so perfect, like, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's the one thing I have to say, it's like, this is something that like, until you play a VR first person shooter type game, like it literally is like the ultimate experience of first person shooters. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of almost like one of those ones, like it's somewhat, not saying you can't go back to, of course, regular gameplay, but like you almost feel like you're stepping back quite a bit when you play like a regular game on like a console or PC again, when you get kind of used to the VR-ness, because the VR, like in a first person shooter, it's just like you're like as accurate as you are in like real life. You know what I mean? Just the pointing and aiming and everything like that, because it kind of gives you the feeling of almost having like a light gun in your hand that you're running around with. That outbeats any controller, any mouse, something about that just there. But then just also the small stuff of being able to like literally peek around a corner, kind of crouch down. And I played this game mostly sitting down. I will say VR games definitely play better if you do stand up, but sometimes I just don't feel like I want to stand up forever, because I do notice a lot of times if you sit down, the only downfall is you get kind of clustered in like all your items. It's almost like they're all, sometimes you go to reach down to grab something and you pull out the syringe. You're like, God damn it. Or you reach down on the other side, you pull out the pistol. You're like, I didn't want to pull the pistol out, Yeah. So I will say there is something to be said about standing up. Definitely makes the experience, but especially in this game where it's like there's a lot of story stuff. I feel like I gotta sit down for this.
Yeah, I felt that. So I beat this game in 3 total play sessions. Like my very first session was a good like 2.5 hours of just like nonstop. I was standing up, set up the so instead of like having the little ring around me, in terms of the play area or whatever, I drew an area in my room so I could physically walk around the room too, and whatnot, and be able to like pick up objects and things like that, which is super neat. But yeah, no, I actually like really enjoyed standing up more so than sitting down, because my next 2 play sessions I was sitting those whole times too. It's like you almost have to have like a stool with no arms, like to be able to sit on, because like I'm sitting in my gaming computer chair and there's arms on the side of it, and I kept like like my hands would get stuck, and things like that.
I had the exact same issue too, because my chair had the arms on it as well.
Mm-hmm. But if you had like even like a drum throne or something, for like drumming, like that would be perfect. That would be perfect for sitting down. And I can say like this game actually works beautifully sitting down. Like there's really no issues with it, especially because you have manual crouch. There's certain VR games out there that do not have a manual crouch and they have a sitting mode, and it's like you're basically, I mean, like you can set your height right and whatnot, but in order to crouch while sitting, like your fucking faces are like on the floor, basically, like on the physical floor to crouch. It's retarded. But at least
there's some other VR games too where they don't have a proper sitting mode in it either. So it just as you're running around the game, you look like you're like all of 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
So you're shorter than every other enemy and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. I really didn't like. There really wasn't any performance issues or anything. So this is something to talk about too for the audience, is like So Spencer got to play like native on the Quest, through the Quest store, like that version of it. I played the Steam version, I played the PC VR version and whatnot. Everything that I've seen, like obviously they're the same exact game and whatnot, and like quite literally the only difference is like how powerful my graphics card is comparatively to the internal processing power of the Quest 3 that you have. So that's the other variable too. Spence is playing on Quest 3 natively through the system. I'm playing on Quest 2 streaming through my PC, and like, but it was cool because I was able to overclock my my displays and stuff like that, So I got it to 90 hertz. I was able to push it to near 1440p, whatever that like weird aspect ratio is for VR, nearly 1440p, and was able to just pump the living gills out of the graphics on this, with that 5080 that I have. I'm not gonna say like it's not quite to Exodus levels of like beauty, like especially, but I'd say it's pretty much like on par with the Redux version of Last Light. I would say like it's virtually there, and even in some cases even more so,
Interesting.
So I'm curious about your native experience on the
like the Quest 3. It looks good on there for sure. Sometimes it's like. This kind of goes with a lot of the Quest games on there is that they always feel like they're high-end Xbox 360 games is kind of like the best way to sort of describe it. Sort of like they feel like what a Switch feels like, a regular Switch, not a Switch 2, is that it always feels like a high-end Xbox 360 at the end of the day.
Right.
And one thing I think I noticed it on Metro, but I think it kind of happens in other games. I noticed like when you're looking directly at something, it renders that stuff like all the way in. But if I look down or I look up with just my eyes, you can tell that stuff's a little bit out. Yeah, it's just a little bit out of focus and so on like that. So I think that's like there's the Quest uses a lot of those rendering tricks to make up for having just that small Android computer strapped to your face.
Right.
Which at the same time it is cool that it is standalone and there is a bunch of bonuses there. It would be nice to rock and roll it with the PC. I know that's the only downfall of my PC is at the moment is that the processor is just a little bit too behind. Yep. Everything else is fine and dandy, but the processor is just the only part that can't get those VR games to run off Steam.
Yeah.
So it's like I got Half-Life Alyx and all those kind of things I can never get to boot up.
Yep. Well, we'll fix that soon. So we're gonna build Spence a new PC soon. So
yeah, I got like one skiing game was the only thing I could get to work off like Steam.
Yeah,
like
I
got those like one of those like very like indie ports. It was like remember that old ski game on PC and where you'd ski downhill. Somebody made a VR kind of version of that. So it's ski free, but in VR, and it was kind of a cheap one. But I kid you not, it was like one of the first VR games I was playing. So you're going down, do. You turn and you look, and there's that Yeti running at full speed at you.
Hell yeah, that's great.
So that was the only one I could get the run on there. But no, still overall, like I'm pretty darn impressed with just the Quest 3 and just the way it kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those ones. I still feel like with VR, it's a little, once again, you got to be really into gaming. Like you got to be the gamer who enjoys playing with all kinds of other stuff because it might be kind of a hard sell if you only have like one console or something like that. Yeah. And, you just don't want to kind of deep dive into it because a lot of the stuff on, especially VR games for at least a good while was almost like the modded stuff was kind of the cool things. Yeah. That was the more interesting stuff was like companies like Team Beef putting together like, oh, cool, I can play like Quake and, Half-Life and Doom and all these and Tomb Raider, all these ones in VR, and, in the last handful of years, I think that like a lot of these games have really kind of caught up where like, okay, now they're starting to become kind of legitimate, because there was Resident Evil 4, the one that was made for the Quest. And that was the one where it's just like, why is there not more games like this? Yeah. That was what I always kind of thought. It's like, just take really good old games and convert them over because it seems like it's actually really easy. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but 1 to 3 guys can pretty much convert over any old game into like a fully VR version. Yeah. So it's like, why don't you just do like an official port of so many of these games and do more of that? And I don't know why. As I said, there's a couple of them out there, but like, I mean, I was kind of hoping with Resident Evil 4 that would spawn in other things. I'm like, I don't know why they didn't do Resident Evil 5 in that VR style.
Right. And that's my problem with VR this whole time too. It's like, my wife bought it for me a handful of years ago and whatnot. And like, it's a really cool system. It's a really neat thing, but it is insanely niche. Majority of the stuff that I've ever played in VR, more or less feel like just bona fide tech demos, you know, just like proof of concepts and stuff. Really cool shit, you know. Beat Saber, fucking awesome, you know, like Ragnarok, the drumming game, you know, with these like Vikings, you know, and shit. Super fucking cool. I mean, I could probably name off a handful more, but like it wasn't until I played Half-Life Alyx, you know, where it was like, oh no, these are like, you can actually make games with this, like that are on par with Half-Life and Half-Life 2 and, you know, things like that. I've played games like The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, a couple hours of that and whatnot, you know. My biggest problem at that point was like just being in VR for that amount of time, being a full-time employed person and a full-time father. I have all these like limitations already set on top of my like gaming schedules that I can set up for myself and whatnot. So VR has always been hard anyways. But I will tell you that this game, because the only other game that I've like played start to finish was just like, hell yeah, this game is fucking rad, was Half-Life Alyx. This game, like I said, to be able to sit down and do it in 3 play sessions, you know, like essentially like a 3-hour block, a 3-hour block, and then like a 4-hour block, like for my final day or whatever, is a testament to how fucking good this game is. But I'm also a massive, like, I don't know, I adore Metro in general. I love the world. I love, you know, and to be like in the Metro, like you physically being in the Metro, because it's one thing to play through 2033 and Last Light and like have those Metro style experiences, very linear, you know, like you go into combat, explore a little bit, blah, blah, blah. That's very much how this game is designed, is very much like the original too. But to have the scale of like what the Metro is, what the monsters are, how big they are. Like the first time we came across the Nasalis in this game, because Nasalis are basically like just fodder enemies in most of the other games and whatnot. But in this game, it's just like, holy when they stand up on their fucking, and you have to like look up at them, and you're just like, oh my God, you know, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it.
Well, that's the thing though, is like once you get that kind of experience of like the right VR games and so on like that, like it's hard to replicate that. Try to explain that even to like other people that haven't played VR, because there is something that like it is a much different experience than just that size factor and the fact that you really are in this area running around. You know, I guess for me, the first game that I kind of remember that felt like there was like legitimately a full-on game was when that Batman one came out, the Arkham one. You know, it's like, oh shit, this just feels like I'm literally playing a Batman Arkham Knight game, just having to be VR, and the fact that you can run around punching guys and throwing them and everything like that. And it's just so satisfying as long as you don't punch a wall or something yourself. But this one here, you're literally in the Metro, you're walking around, you're interacting with people and so on like that, you know, and you can just look up and look around, look at the details, pick things up off the ground, check them out, you know, just there's something about that kind of like the exploration of it.
Oh yeah. And I really, really liked, so we talked about pretty heavily in the original trilogy and whatnot. There's these moments in Metro where like everything just kind of like slows way down, kind of goes a bit more quiet, maybe not so much quiet, but hub zone areas and whatnot. There's hub zones in like the start of this game, and I really, really took the time, because again, you got a TV strapped to your face basically, and like you're walking around, and this time finally too, like there was still that layering of audio shit going on, you know, like where like NPC to your right's talking while the ones in the left's talking or whatever. But for some reason, like in VR, I was able to like comprehend that better. And I don't understand why. I cannot explain why, but like I could listen to NPC 1 on my right and NPC 2 on my left at the same time, but physically like be able to just turn my head and just like, you know, hear in the right audio, left audio, you know, things like that. I didn't get that overwhelmed sense like I did in the original trilogy, where it's just like there's too much shit going on all at once to pay attention to any one thing.
Especially the very first game.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. 2033 is bad.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, because like in VR, you do get like the good kind of surround sound feeling, and just by the way you look, that you don't get that in like a traditional game.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like yet again, just like even more flavor text, even more stories being told when you can like go into an NPC's like room essentially, and he's sitting on the bed and his buddy's sitting at the table, you know, and like they're talking or whatever, you know, having a conversation about just life in the Metro or whatever. And being able to like lean over the bed and like look, like behind the bed and like see the journal, and like there's some like writing on the front of the journal, or like physically lowering your head underneath the bed and seeing like, oh, he's got his shoes and a little briefcase and a blah 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 and this, that, and the other. Again, doesn't mean anything really, but it's just the attention to detail that these artists put into the game that like make the world so much more cohesive. And when you're able to physically interact with it, even just by looking at things, like getting super hyper close to things and whatnot, so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I spent way too long like just staring at shit in this game. It was like,
well, I do notice in VR games is like that you do look at things a lot better than you do a lot of times in a regular video game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just one of those ones. I always feel about that too. It's amazing how many games you go through. You just like sprint through it. Like somebody spent like, there's like 100 guys that spent it's so much time and effort putting details on here, put months in of work, and you run through it in like 20 seconds.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, there's I would say like there are some absolutely some sections in here, and it's mostly like the rail car sections where you're like on a rail car like with a gun, like a mounted gun and whatnot. Like that all those scenes are insanely similar, because you're just rolling through a metro basically,
Yeah.
But I would say that I think for the most part everything is pretty samey the way that it was back in 2033 and Last Light, in terms of environmental design. It wasn't really until Exodus where there was like the Volga versus the desert versus the blah blah blah, like you have all these like various environments. But I will say that they did them hyper consistently throughout all of this, and I never really felt like I was getting bored of any one section. Like there was enough variety, at least in the level design and like the way that puzzles would work and things like that. You got to turn all the valves to unlock the, like turn off all the steam to unlock the door so you can go to the next place and whatnot. So it had these like survival horror elements, just like scattered throughout, like that I thought were pretty cool, like that. But environmental detail though, spider webs in this game, incredible looking. And again, it might be in my experience because I was like I said, like pumping that game out to the fucking gills. But like I look like I was looking at like 4K resolution fucking spider webs like in just corners of the room and shit, just staring at that, just going, damn, like that looks good. So
yeah, probably like in the Quest, everything has like a slightly cartoonier look to it, probably because of that. Once again, it still looks good, but yeah, you once again, you do feel like you're trapped in like a 360 game.
Yeah.
With like 90 hertz resolution, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, and you still get the little lighter too. You can pull that off your bag and flick it up and light the spider webs on fire. Seems about that's the only thing that lighter does in this game.
I was gonna say, because like I know there's an achievement. There's an achievement in the labyrinth section or whatever, where you have to burn all the doorways that are covered in cobwebs or whatever. But outside of that, because in the previous games, it's like you would hold the lighter out and wherever the flame would be pointing is like the direction you needed to go. There was a couple points in this game where I kind of got lost and I was like, where the fuck? Like I don't quite understand where I need to go. Where that would have been a lot more trick, but at the same time, non-dominant hand, left shoulder, pull out your backpack. There is that compass sitting right on top. It still won't show you point to point to point directions, but it just basically points in one direction. Like you need to go that way, which was helpful. So
yeah, well, I noticed in this one, if you try to use the lighter as a direction thing and you walk, the lighter just the flame bent to whatever direction you were walking. So it wasn't guiding you at all.
Right. Yeah. Which I thought was an interesting change, but like I said, even then, like the level design is so rudimentary. I wouldn't even call it rudimentary. It's just simplistic, for the most part. I really think it was just that one section that you called out before I even got there. You're just like, like when you follow the pipes, like that's a weird one,
Yeah, that was one of the only goofy ones where it's just like, God, I just walked around those pipes for so long, that puzzle thing. And it's just like, I'm listening to the pipes. What I mean? Like,
yeah, I just bullied my way through that one. And frankly, like really what happened was, and we'll talk about it when we get a little bit closer, or if we, talk about that a bit more deep, but it was just like, as soon as I recognized that it was a loop pattern, of going the same direction over and it's just looping over and over again. It's just like, oh, okay, turn around, go the other way, you know, hit the same wall, go, and you're starting to see the same pattern, turn back around, go the other way, bounce back and forth and whatnot. It's I forgot the name of the game.
I will say though, it did have one of those things that if you turned around and tried to walk backwards, sometimes though, like the entrance would be closed on you, so you had to go through it and restart the thing. I noticed,
really,
because I tried that a couple times too, where I thought I was just going to bully my way through it, and then it'd be like, oh, I'm blocked off. Let me, I have to go back around.
I couldn't figure out because you know the pipes are talking to you or whatever. You know, you're supposed to be hearing some singing or something. Like I just didn't hear that shit.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. You know, it's just like, well, you hear sounds and it's like, but I don't know if these sounds are related to it or whatnot. Right. Yeah, there was no singing.
Right. Well, and even atmospherically, talking about audio in this game, there's just shit just happening constantly in this game. Just like you said, random sounds of like skittering or a pipe breaking or like whatever, you know, like, I mean, there's just noises in the metro that add to the immersion, of course, and whatnot. But yeah, for that one particular section, like that was the only point where I was like, what is happening? And then it just kind of got through it, you know, and I just like entered out of one door, you know, it's at a certain point was just like, okay, well, I guess that was it. Like, you know,
that part. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm trying to think of like what else there really is. Yeah, another interesting mechanic. I didn't find all of them, but were you finding all those postcard things?
I didn't find them all, but I found probably like 9 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just little cool collectible things that you find. You're like, oh, cool, New York, you know, Athens. And you just, you know, keep all these little like travel log postcards.
Yeah. I thought it was cool that you know, just to have something extra to go do, you know, like because the few that I found too were just like totally like, that's the main line door, there's another path, I'm just gonna go this way and see what's down there, you know, like, and that was just curiosity of finding all those. So I thought that was pretty neat. Gives the player a little bit extra to do. So
because you're already searching for ammo, you know, because no matter what, ammo is super scary. Well, the thing is, it's like there's actually more ammo in the game, but half the time you're like, you can't carry anymore, but like it doesn't take much to blow through that ammo.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, why can't I was like, let me at least be able to carry a little bit more if I can only hold like 2 clips worth of ammo. But you know, and then sometimes you'll find like, well, there's 4 clips right there. Cool, I can't take that.
Right. Yeah, I started to figure out pretty quickly. Well, one, I thought it was super strange that there is no melee weapons in this game, like whatsoever. Like you can use your fists against people and whatever, but like there's no, like even just a basic knife. Like why wasn't there just like a knife in the game? Like it was so weird. Because early,
it feels like in a VR game that like that's almost would be more of an element, is just to have like a crowbar or something like that you would walk around with, or you know, like a pipe, you know, monkey wrench type one.
So again, breaking down the wireframe, like the reason why, you know, and it's pretty blatantly apparent, like the game wants you to be stealthy very much so in this game. I think they did not include melee weapons because of how heavy of a focus, especially at the start of this game where you don't have shit for weapons or ammo or whatever. It's like grab bricks, grab bottles, and make noise, you know, to like distract enemies, to pull them away from their assigned locations or whatever, or just hit them in the fucking head with the brick, you know, and like knock them out and shit like that, you know. But even then, like, I don't know, there were so many points where I just was out of ammo, dealing with like a scurrying little, you know, like the fodder type enemies or whatever
ones,
and like there's fuck all I can do about it, you know. It's just like it got to the point where I just started testing at one point because I completely ran out of ammo. I was stuck in a room with one more of those things that I thought I couldn't kill, and basically what kept happening is like it would scurry up to me, it would do the animation where it would crouch, it would look at me, and it would jump right at me or whatever, and I would just punch it out of the air and just like smacking that, and it would fall down, and I would run up to it, and I would go hella fast like that, and you could see it, you know, because it's jumping all over, it's getting hit, you know, and I just didn't know if I was actually doing damage. And probably 5 cycles of that, and then finally I just like run up to him for the last time, just and he finally he just like passes out and dies, you know. I was like, okay, well, I guess you totally can use it. It's completely ineffective, but I guess you can.
Yeah, I had to speed bag a couple enemies just to finish them off.
and I love so there's an achievement too to sneak up behind. So in this game you got mutants and you got, you know, traditional like bipedal human type enemies and whatnot. But the game wants you to. There's an achievement to like sneak kill, like 5 guys or 10 guys or however many it is, where you literally just walk up behind them and just you have to get close enough to them to like just smack them in the back of the head and whatnot. And the first time that I did it against an enemy with a helmet on, because I wasn't thinking about it, I was just like, oh, you just walk up behind his back. And walking up behind that dude, because you're in VR. It's like the dude is like in front of you. You're physically swinging your arm. I swing my arm and I tap the back of that dude's head, and you just hear tink, and he just turns around and he goes, and just like screams at me in fucking Russian, and then just lights me up and kills me. And I'm like, okay.
I think I know that same guy because I think it's like the first time you come across one of those guys. I did the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, there's a perfect one to get there, and so I went up and I hit the guy in the head. He turned around and I just pulled that pistol out and I just like Reservoir Dogs unloaded into him until the clip was out.
Hell yeah.
I was just like, oh God, I didn't really expect that to happen. You know, the other thing I noticed too is because, you go around the sneak and like, in normal Metro games and practically every other game, you're crouched so that you don't make as much noise. And you just go behind somebody, press a button, and you do that. So it's like, okay, well, I went up and I was like, okay, maybe you could just hit him when you're crouched. So I just punched the guy in the ass, and then he just turned around like, nope, it doesn't work that way. It's like, hey, you got to stand up to like take him out.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I really enjoyed those mechanics. Just the stealth in general, man. With some of the tools that we have at our disposal, honestly, like. The last few missions, using that blow dart, like that blow dart is insanely overpowered, for what it is and whatnot. But the other really fun one is it's the crossbow that you get early, like pretty fucking early in the game. And when you run into those enemies that are wearing the Altons and whatnot, so they have like the flip down shield, like over their faces, and like you just, and the rest of their head is covered, so it's like you can't knock them out. You can't hit them with a bottle because nothing's going to happen or whatever. It's basically you got to shoot them either a shitload in the body or you just hit them right in between the eyes, basically. And to have a crossbow and physically, again, you're in VR, you're in the world, you're holding the thing, physically in your hand, technically, and like aiming, waiting for the right moment. And that dude just turns the corner or whatever, and you fire a bolt. And it physically just like goes right in between like his little eye sockets where you can see, out of the Alton, and like just and then there's just a bolt sticking out of it. And I love the animation.
Pull it back out of him.
You
like
just pull it out. If I can flip the thing down, slide it back in, reuse the bolt. Like, dude, it's so good. It's so much fun. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, no. That stuff is totally neat and so on. I will say that I wish the game had a little bit more of a sprint feature in it, though. Like the sprint one's like one of those ones. Like that's not a problem having a short sprint or like a light stamina gauge, I guess you would say, when you're in smaller areas. It's just there's a lot of Metro tunnel stuff where it's like, boy, I wish I could just run all the way over there. Because sometimes the only thing about VR games is I noticed that a lot of them, like sometimes you move a lot slower than normal games.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'd even say the sprint is not even a sprint. It's like a light jog.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so
Sidar tends to walk. Yeah, I very much agree. Sidar's walk speed is pretty slow.
Yeah, and it's just one of those ones. Like once again, in small areas, not a big deal, but like sometimes like when you have to cross a certain distance, you're like, ugh. A lot of times I'm not always the biggest fan of like a stamina gauge. I know that like people are like, oh, it makes you scared. I'm like, well, here's the thing: in short areas, I'm not gonna run out of it. It's like where I need it most is when I'm just like I'm more just going, okay, I just gotta get from point A to point B. There's nothing in my way. I wish I could just fully just run those ones. Like I always thought like what games should do if they want to have that tension thing is like, okay, say if enemies are there, the stamina gauge appears. If there's no enemies, remove the stamina gauge. Just get rid of that because it is kind of a cluster. And I almost think it's kind of weird. I think in these like VR games, they should almost get rid of like the L3, like the sprint thing, and just be like, turn on auto run, and just if I need to walk, just let me push the joystick slight or slower. Because sometimes I feel like they could go a little bit faster. That is one of those ones. Like you could go just a little bit quicker there. And then you're like trying to milk that thing of like, well, if I run diagonally, I can go a little bit quicker this way. Which I don't know why that's still a thing. That sounds like that's like almost like a glitch from like the 90s. That for some reason video games still to this day you can still run faster by going diagonal.
Yep. Yeah, well, you're splitting axes. That's why. You know?
yeah. You get like that left movement and like the forward movement all at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like one of those only things. It's like it could be a little bit more of that. Beyond that, a lot of the other play controls I still thought were pretty solid. You know, climbing up the ladders and all kinds of stuff. And except for this, I would say we both know this. It has the weird thing that when you jump off a ledge, for some reason, the game goes really quick.
Yeah.
It's like the quickest thing that Sidara does is literally jump off the ledges, and it's almost like that's kind of the weird thing that was almost like unnerving a bit. Like, why is it like have to be so? I stepped off a box. Why is that so quick?
Yep. So that so in general, like, so a lot of people tend to have a problem playing VR in terms of getting motion sick and things like that, you know, over extended periods of time. For whatever reason, that does not happen to me outside of the occasional thing, you know, within a game or sometimes a game outright and whatnot. I was explaining to you, like, the last time I got like motion sick over VR was like in Ace Combat 7 or whatever, you know, like an actual like playing game.
Yeah, doing
And
a
that's
turn
like,
and burn.
well, exactly, you know, and like that's me like sitting down, have full HOTAS, you know, I've got my stick and throttle and all the shit, you know, like plugged in, have the VR headset on, and I'm just sitting in a cockpit and like looking around, but like just doing aerial maneuvers and stuff, just, you know, just like, you know, you start to feel a little sick. The other one that happened was here. It's the when you walk up to a ledge, there's an automatic animation that plays if you want to walk down or jump down the ledge or whatever, where your character literally just does it, just like it just whoop right down to the ground. Hell, like Spence is saying, hella quick. This should have been, and maybe there is in the settings where maybe I missed it, but there should have been like a hold A, you know, walk up to the ledge, have a prompt pop up, hold A. So you're mentally prepared to make that jump. So that one, and then and it happened only one time because every other slide down a ladder never got sick. But there was one time, and it just must have been like how the length of the ladder or something. But you know, there's an animation where it's like you walk up to the ladder and you physically grab onto the ladder itself, onto the rungs, and then you hit the sprint button. And your character like just automatically grabs onto the sides of the ladder and goes, you know, and slides down the ladder. And for whatever reason, dude, like I was looking down while that was happening and just like, you know, just like my stomach just turned and I was like, geez, you know, I had to put the headset down for like 2 minutes. Was like, okay.
It's funny how it only takes one brief moment to throw everything off its access. It's never like as much of a buildup. You know, but no, I know because I scoured the options menu because on these VR games, I literally like will go through the options way more hardcore than I will even on a regular game and just really flip everything on that I want and so on. Because, you know, I want the game to play like a regular video game. Like that when they have that weird snap and that vignette, that stuff makes me nauseous because that feels super unnatural. Like, I don't know why they think that's the other way around. That's going to make people feel less nauseous. But it's like, no, make sure that stuff's off. I want to, you know, but that's why I think that's why that jumping down feels weird because it feels like a snap movement. Yeah. And that snap movement is, I'm kind of, video games are starting to get away from that snap thing. I noticed that's almost like a back option anymore. I've noticed in the last handful of years on those VR games, you know, because if you get some of those older games from like the 2010s, those ones seem to always start off in that snap movement. You're like, oh, don't do that. That's weird.
Well, and to describe for listeners here, like if you've never played a VR game, so what Spence is talking about with snap movement is so on your turning of your camera in a traditional sense, if you're holding a controller, it's your right stick, you know.
Yeah.
There's certain modes in VR that when you have snap turning on, it's basically an 8-axis snap point to where you hit left and your character physically turns 15 degrees and goes snap, and like you're snapped to that position. So you have that, or you have continuous, and continuous it works just like a regular controller would, you know, regular camera where you hold left and your character physically turns left at however, you know, whatever sensitivity you put it at.
Yeah, and you crank that sensitivity up too. That's the other thing. I want that sensitivity way up too.
Yep.
I want those slow turning here.
And then locomotion is the other style of movement, and that's your for listeners, this is your left stick, you know, and like I've seen it to where, you know, you can have continuous, of course, you know, where it's just like forward is forward, back is back, left is strafe left, right is strafe right, you know, just traditional style. But I've also seen it where, and these are like accessibility features where you can have snap movement with this thing too. But it's like, what happens is you hold out your left thumb, basically you push forward, a little like beam of light kind of comes out and it puts a circle on the ground in front of you. And like as soon as you let go of your stick or whatever, you hit some combo of a button, you literally warp to that spot. And basically what it's supposed to do is like just put you in a singular location at any given time to where you're not physically moving forward, backwards, strafing left, right. It's pretty good for sitting down type, like VR movement, whatever. But that shit fucking turns my stomach. Half-Life Alyx is like that by default, and just
well, because for the longest time that was like the default ones. I noticed they started to come the other way around, where the normal movements default now. But yeah, to me, it's like all that stuff is like I always have to turn that off because it's like that's jarring as all can be. I don't know. I can't imagine that's. I mean, granted, I know it for somebody it probably works. That's why it's in there. But for most people that play,
reminds me of. It reminds me a lot of like the point and click adventure games that we've played, like Harvester or whatever. It's like, like your character is just static in one spot until you click a certain area. And then your character just like kind of like, I mean, granted, in those types of games, he walks over, but in VR sense, it's like literally just a snap. You just you just warp there. Like it's just no thanks.
Yeah, it's like D or Enemy Zero, I guess, by that standard. But it's that, and then when they had the vignette thing come down on you when you're walking through, I don't know what it is. Like that tunneling thing makes me feel kind of odd too.
Yeah,
like all the things that like are supposed to be to make the game like less nauseating, I think make me more nauseous, and everything that feels more like a regular video game makes me feel okay. This is fine.
Yep. I'm glad that there is that amount of accessibility options for people that really do need it. So for that, I mean, fantastic. But I think, Spence and I are kind of on the same front with this. It's just like, I would rather this game play like a video game in a traditional sense, because that's what makes sense in my mind. But I have head movement.
That's the main thing. I have head movement and I have hand movement. That's like that's what makes the everything else should be like a regular game. Because I noticed there was also a couple options. You could actually turn the ladder climbing off. I guess if somebody doesn't like it, it's kind of fun to do the.
Yep.
Probably looks so weird to somebody just watching.
So
your arms are just flailing up and down. I mean, I guess I don't know if it's as weird as when you're doing the speed bag punching.
Oh yeah. I kind of do wish this game had some kind of go. But so that's another weird one. And this is just VR in general. Like this has nothing to do with Metro Awakening on its own. But it definitely has this. There's something very weird about climbing a ladder in VR because you're not physically using your legs at this point. Like you're just grabbing onto rungs with your hands and you're going up, and your character's sliding up this ladder, and whatnot. But as soon as you get to the top, if the ladder doesn't go more than like 2 to 3, like if it's shorter than like 3 feet above the landing area where you need to get to, it's always awkward because your hand will be on the top rung and you pull yourself up with one hand and you're looking and the platform's right there, but the platform's at your hip. And you're like, how do I get further up? So you got to grab with your left hand, pull yourself up just a hair slide, and then that stupid fucking snap motion that shit happens where you just like snap to the platform. And it's like, so that was happening constantly throughout the game for me too. So
I know it's some VR games, they have it where you like launch yourself up. Yeah. It's almost like you throw yourself and you're like, oh.
Yeah. See, so in Alyx, for example, like pretty much everything, like you can like grab onto and whatnot and pull yourself up. So like in that scenario in Alyx, it's like, the platform's at your hip where your feet need to be. So it's like you just put your hand on the platform and you push yourself up a little bit higher, and then your feet can be able to snap to the, to the floor and whatnot. So anyways, there's still a lot of really wonky shit with virtual reality in general. But goddamn, like it's like that's like 1% problem, because like the remainder of this is just fucking phenomenal. It's so much fun.
No, well, because once again, it's like the gameplay in it. And like I guess before we even got to like all that stepping off stuff, we were talking about the stealth aspect of it, and that's another one of those ones that like stealth and VR is like so perfect. It's like once again you play. You use the stealth in a VR game. It's kind of almost even hard to go back to a traditional game stealth because it's like just being able to kind of crouch, look around, pop up over the edge, pull your gun out and so on like that, walk up and hit guys. Like when I see this stealth, I just go, you know what they really need is they need a Splinter Cell game to be put into VR.
yeah.
Like that is that would be even if you just took Chaos Theory and you converted that one on over or
Yep.
something like that, you know. But in this game, yeah, especially when you're fighting just the humans and so on like that, and you're sneaking around. Stealth is so good in this one. You know, granted, you can still do that same thing you do in all the Metros where you back yourself in the corner, just get them all riled up, and just have them come running at you. You know, which there's a couple scenes in this game too where like when you're fighting guys, there was like I was kind of stuck in the corner, and there was guys either come from the left side or the right side. You'd be like, pop, 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 turn, pop, 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 pull the pistol up, bam, bam, bam. Okay, I think I got enough time to reload real quick, and then like you know it was getting intense, and then the guys with the armor coming, you pull one of the grenades off. You know, chuck it at them.
Dude, those grenades were fucking fun, man. So the grenades in this game, like, they're basically pipe bombs, you know, essentially. And whatnot. So you like pull out like the pipe bomb. There's a little like, you know, pin at the top of it or whatever. You pull that pin, it sets off the fuse, and you're watching, like you're holding the shit in your hand, and you're watching this fuse fucking, you know, like towards the detonator, and like. You know that you only have a few seconds of this thing, you know, so you have to like time it fucking perfectly, and especially with the dudes with the big heavy armor sets and all that, you know, because you basically have to land it at their feet for that to do any kind of damage to them to be effective. Spence, I blew myself up probably good 3 or 4 times in like this one scenario because I just refused to do it any other way. I was like, there was this perfect script of 3 enemies where they would converge into the same area constantly, you know, like they would do their route, they would walk around or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in the back of the room just observing, waiting for them to all kind of convene. Have that grenade pulled out, pin pulled, timed perfectly to be able to throw it. So by the time it lands at their feet, it basically like lands and explodes. You know, like that's what I was trying to do. Self-imposed on myself. I could have easily pulled out my guns and taken them out any other way, you know, but like I really wanted this to happen. And yeah, dude, like probably 3 or 4 times, like I'm holding that grenade, and just like, nope, didn't time it right, bam, you know, like blow up and die, you know. But the moment that I did, best fucking feeling. Yeah, we got an astronaut. She's like,
on an adventure.
Yeah, I see.
Oh yeah, got full on astronaut outfit going. This is like too hot of a day to be wearing that full astronaut suit.
All right, go on. I'm ready.
Yeah, I actually strangely never blew myself up with a grenade, which I thought was going to happen at some point. Yeah. But I mostly would pull that pin and just chuck it out there at the guys and so on. I should have used the grenades more throughout the game. Like sometimes kind of forgot about them, you know, because it's like there's so many things that grab something on your body that you go, oh yeah, I have grenades too.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Mostly you remember that when you find another grade that you cannot pick up since you have too many, and then you're like, oh, I should have been using these.
Yep. And that so I played on normal mode. I didn't end up doing like the hardcore ranger mode or anything like that. But
on VR games, I mostly kind of keep it down because I'm like, there's going to be a lot of retardation of like trying to get like just associated with all the grab positions and something like that. Like that in itself is a difficulty. You know, maybe in the future when you get real confident with that kind of movement, that'd be one thing. But I feel like that already provides enough challenge.
Oh yeah, and I'd say outside of my complaint earlier about that first, like, you know, like having to speed bag punch that one enemy, because that literally only happened once. Like outside of that, I always had some form of ammo, you know, like for whatever type of weapon. I will say that out of all of the games so far, excluding, like, I really liked Ranger Hardcore on Last Light. I thought that was like a very, very well balanced experience. You know, it was hard, but it was like very well balanced. Normal mode here probably feels the best out of any of the Metro games in my experience. You didn't have enough ammo to like just feel like stupid overpowered like I did in Exodus, you know, for the most part, being able to craft ammo and shit like that, you know. But you also never had enough, but you never had too much at the same time. It just felt perfectly balanced. Every time I would kill an enemy, I realized pretty quickly, it's like you run over to their body or whatever, their gun's on the ground, you scoop up their gun, pull their clip out or whatever, slap it to your chest, chuck their gun away, you know, and like just you're constantly just picking up ammo that way, you know, and whatnot. Meanwhile, traditionally, like any of the other games, there's caches around and whatnot too. You go down that one random hallway, you open up that one random door. Oh shit, there's a bunch of lockers in here. You start opening those, you get all the ammo that way and whatever too. I never felt like I was at a disadvantage or advantage against anything in combat in this game at any given time. And it very much felt like a coin flip every time I would go into combat of, am I going to survive this encounter or not? And that felt good,
Yeah, no, cool, because it's like you could only carry so much ammo. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
what made it a little bit of the challenge, because a lot of times I would get the points where I was finding more ammo than I actually needed, especially after you kill a bunch of guys and you pick up their guns and you're just like dismantling their ammo and so on. And then sometimes it's just like when things got real, like, when you do get to it and there's like, oh, I'm battling a bunch of guys in a row and I have to literally grab a gun real quick. And I was like, because you could just grab one of their guns, shoot the 3 rounds that are in it, throw it out, then pull your gun out. Yeah, there was some neat things you could do with that. I thought that was cool. I will say, after playing Metro Exodus, though, because of some of the features in that one, I was kind of like expecting to be some form of like, oh, I'm gonna be able to upgrade my gun or anything like that. And they don't have any of that
opportunity. It's such a missed opportunity.
I kind of look at it 2 ways. I get it. They're trying to give it more of a Metro 1 feel, is what they're going with. The downfall is once you already have a couple other games out there, it seems like it's kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back in a weird way, because there is no upgrading of anything. And even like guns itself, like, you get a silenced pistol finally, but it just sort of like replaces your pistol in a sense or whatnot. But it's not like you added a part to it or anything. And you also get that silent pistol. Like, I feel like you get it so much later in the game that you should have got it. Like that almost should have been like maybe the second gun you got.
So, yes, 100%.
Third, maybe after the AK-47. That would be about the part place for it to appear.
I 100% agree with you. However, again, I really think that the development studio wanted you to be stealthy and really wanted you to use the bottles and the bricks and the thing, I really think that's how it was designed. Which again it's a shortfall. It's a missed opportunity, I can say, not to like really jump ahead or anything like that, but I can say that, at overall, this game, it really felt like a proof of concept. Meanwhile, I just really fucking hope that Vertigo does a sequel of this to some extent. Not a sequel to Awakening per se, but do another Metro VR game and bring in the features like Exodus had, because we have some of it. We have the fucking backpack. Like, I love that. I love being able to pull out that backpack. And the other thing too is like how minimalistic everything is. Everything is insanely immersive because you don't have the ammo counter on the right side of your screen. You don't have the health, type stuff. You still have like your physical watch, you have a timer on there for your gas mask filters. You pull out your backpack, you have like a little notepad on the top that says, oh, you have, 20 AK bullets and you have 3 pistol rounds or whatever, whatever it is. So all that was,
you can always look at your
techno.
clip too, which I always thought was cool. The clips, they always had like almost like a see-through like lens to them, so you always knew if you had ammo. I thought that was neat because that would have kind of sucked in that kind of game if I had to count my ammo when I'm firing it off.
All that's like insanely immersive. Anyways, to go back to like what you were saying about like the silenced pistol and all that. Yes, should have been earlier in the game. Now seeing the ending of the game and like kind of understanding like the game flow chapter to chapter, how long this game is, all that, I still got plenty of use out of that silenced pistol later on, after acquiring it, whatnot. But again, there's just like there's a couple of just missed opportunities, I feel here.
Well, because it really feels, I'll say this though, the silenced pistol, there's only like one real section you get to use it at. I mean, you have it through a couple other ones where you're just battling like mutants and so on like that. But like, there's only one more real stealth area where when you have that silent pistol, you finally get to use it to its full advantage. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's it. It's like, and by that point, you also have multiple other, because I'm like, well, now I have the harpoon gun that's kind of like a silent gun. It felt like it was almost like the silenced pistol was like, cool. It was almost like a little too late, but still needed that it was there. It still surprised me because I literally didn't think there was going to be one because the game had gone on for so long. Like, there's no way there's going to be a silenced pistol now. I haven't seen a single upgrade for anything else. So that's what kind of threw me off when I picked it up. And I was like, because all I thought was like, I wonder if I can keep this. that was the first thing I thought when I saw it. Or is this just like one of those guns that like you get 9 shots and that's it?
So I think that video I sent you was actually talking about this too. It was referencing it. I didn't think about it until I actually watched that video. Every single Metro game ever has, you always start with that pistol, and it's usually a revolver. It's a 6-shot revolver and whatnot. How do they? So basically, what happens in this game is that it moves over to like an actual like magazine style, like I don't know, ACP 45 or something, like whatever. I actually kind of wish that they would have had the revolver in this game and just made it the Resident Evil fucking, Red 9 or Red 7 or whatever, like that style weapon, the broken butterfly, things like that, where you only get like 6 shots for the thing, It would have made a lot more sense if this game actually had like bosses, and like end zone things and stuff like that, But imagine, like having that revolver and like similar with the crossbow, how you have to manually load every single bolt into that thing and whatnot, flip it back over, to like reload it and all that. Would have been so cool to have, just like some kind of like big dick fucking revolver in that game, and like have to manually load that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. But it does make sense, for like the magazine load, style, and like I don't know, like I said, reloading in this game in the heat of combat and all that can just be like very overwhelming, so like maybe a revolver wouldn't be too good of an idea. But,
yeah. Well, the one that I will say I like about this game is every single gun it has in it is completely unique from the next. There's never like a couple guns that feels like it's just kind of the same thing, just slightly different. Like every single one is its own thing, different, because even like when you get like the shotgun, because that one sort of has where you kind of it has like the 6-barrel thing. The shotgun only had one dumb feature in it that it is more just a VR thing, but like so you reload it like, you're plugging it into like the barrels there. The downfall is it has the lever to pull it backwards. So, which is meant for when you pick it up from like an enemy, you go chuk, 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 and just pull out all the ammo and then pick it up off the ground like an animal, But the downfall is if you go to reload and you say like you want to put a round in over on that right side, if you bump that lever with your controller, it pulls the ammo out. That was the only thing I thought was stupid. It's like, no. If I'm reloading, don't make me pull the like because I think it's just one of those ones you have the ammo grabbed with your controller so that when you put it here, your hand just grabs the lever instead. And I thought that was weird.
Yeah. So it's just another thing for the audience. So you can pick up actual bullets in this game, like to an extent.
Like a bullet.
Yeah. What's interesting is like, so with an AK magazine, for example, like a banana clip style magazine or whatever, when that's plugged into your weapon, like you remove that magazine and you slap it to your chest and you let go of it, and then you go back to your chest, you hit your grab button, you pull out a magazine, and it preloads for you. So like whatever the amount of bullets you have on you, automatically load that magazine or whatever. Again, it would have slowed the pace way the fuck down and whatnot. But I kind of would have liked that, dude. Like maybe not be required, but if I wanted to pull out my backpack and grab the box of ammo, pull out the magazine and go, like would have been fucking cool. I'm glad it works the way it does, just for like ease of use and like expediency. Because again, like, could you imagine being in a dark fucking hallway fighting, a couple Nassalis, like pulling out the backpack, grabbing a box of ammo, grabbing your magazine, going, "Fuck, I'm out of ammo."
Let me sit.
Be like Tarkov at that point.
Fully loading your own stuff. Yeah.
But I do think that the biggest missed opportunity with weapons is exactly what you said to preface all of this, and that was the fact that there's no upgrade system. That alone, change out scopes, change out silencers, change out barrels, change out stuff like that. Again, the game's wonderful as is, but like I'm just like, if a sequel were to come out or if somebody were to redo this game or whatever, like these are the things that should have been in it especially after playing through the trilogy, jumping right into this VR experience. It's like, God damn it. Like, I want that. I just fucking want that,
Yeah.
So
it's that. And then there's a couple other things that I just noticed when playing the game that kind of I was sort of surprised in VR wise and just Metro wise. So when you're going once again back into the stealth mode is in all the Metro games, like one of the main things about the stealth thing is when you're crouching around, walking around, you have that light meter on your watch that will glow blue when there's light, and then if you're in the darkness, it turns off. And whenever you would go up, you would turn a light bulb, blow out a candle, all kinds of stuff like this. The weird thing in this game is I thought they're like, oh, that's going to be a cool feature. I'm going to probably be able to go up to a light bulb and manually twist it off, go to a candle and just, swipe my hand across it to take it out, or maybe pinch it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised they didn't do any of that in here, because that just felt like that would have been such like a feature in the game. Because once again, you have everything else there that's telling you this, but for some reason,
yeah.
Even if it was just you just reach towards it, press the button, and then there was an automatic action. I don't care. I don't have to necessarily do it myself, but like, I was just surprised that they took that feature out, because there's only there's a couple lamps you can turn on and off, but they're not necessarily meant for your stealth part. They're meant for like other parts of the game.
Yeah, and especially the we'll get to it in a bit too, but the fucking lamps with the kid, the little Petya kid or whatever, like he's just scared of the dark, and you like physically have to turn on lamps.
Boy, you're dead already. What are you afraid of?
Yeah, exactly.
You died 15 years ago. You're a bad version of a ghost.
Yeah. But god damn it, there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about that just left my mind. Like mechanic wise, but it'll come back to me eventually. But I'd say in general though, like the game is insanely solid, mechanically. There's really nothing wrong with this game, like at all. Surrounding any of that.
As I say, all the things, there's just a little bit of nitpicking things like that. Like once again, like it feels just strange that I can't turn the lights out. The upgrade system, it's not the end of the world, but I just, there's a couple things just because of the other Metro games, I kind of thought it would be there, Probably the only other most minor thing is, I will say there's a lot of areas that do kind of repeat, or at least look like almost like so similar that I was like, did I walk the wrong direction? It's like, oh, no. It wants me to go through this like same area, like for the fourth time or whatever, because it does, like in the story, this one's like one of those ones where, the first Metro kind of has a little bit more of like a fantasy element to it, and that fantasy element starts to fade by the third one. It almost becomes pretty close to realistic, kind of almost in this stuff.
Right.
Where this one kind of goes back and there's like, oh no, there's a lot more of this fantasy element and these kind of ghostly characters, and all this stuff thrown back in here that you really didn't see in Metro 3, and they're almost even in Metro 2. They're there, but they're toned down even more in that one.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, if we're ready to start moving on to story stuff. This game really surprised me. So like right off the bat, we start off this game. It's 2018, correct?
Yeah, it's like super early prequel. Like for some reason, when I saw that, I was like, I guess the bombs went off by this point. I didn't think it was that early they went off, but I guess that was. Yeah,
because in Metro lore, I mean, bombs go off in 2013. The game starts in 2018, and then it jumps ahead 10 years to 2028. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Like, I mean, just right off the bat, because not a lot is established at the start of this game in terms of like, we just played through 2033 and Last Light. The Reds, the Reich, the like the Spartan group, the blah blah blah, like none of that really like exists quite yet. Like you can see the start of a lot of it, throughout this whole this whole experience. And especially like once time advances 10 years or whatever, then we're even more close to like a lot of the factional stuff and whatnot. But a lot of this, like just right from the very beginning, is just like, it's 5 years after the bombs drop. These are like the first, like survivors that went down into the Metro and blah blah blah. And when I talk about like hub zone stuff, right at the start of this game, I spent a long time, like a very long time, probably half an hour, 45 minutes or more, just sitting around the campfire with the fucking NPCs because I can get this close to their face. I can like see all the fine detail and stuff, but listening to them and like everything about that war is like super fresh and new and whatnot. So you get that like core experience out of the narrative like right from the beginning, and especially having the context of the previous trilogy fresh in my mind to see that and just like, oh fuck, like yeah, these people are suffering bad. They have no idea what to do with themselves at this point, like they're making do in the Metro, and like it even boiled down to like there's a kid that has this conversation, you know, he's like sitting there with his mom and he's just like, Mom, like, why can we go back to the surface? And blah, blah, blah. You know, she's just like, I'm sorry, son, like we don't know, like shit's fucked up and blah blah blah, you know. So yeah, super cool that it's a prequel, you know, right off the bat, you know, to the games that we just completed. So
Yeah, exactly. And then it almost feels like right away, like you go there and then you meet that guy who's kind of like your buddy or whatnot. And he's pretty much telling you, he's like, oh, your crazy wife went off again. You know, you got to go out there and stop her before she destroys more of our mushroom patches.
yeah. God damn, what the hell is that dude's name?
I
I
can't
want to
remember.
say it's Alex or something like that.
Yeah, he feels like a Bob, but he's not Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is one piece that I will preface this storyline with. Like, I don't really know I experienced it, but a lot of I think a lot of the problem with VR and narrative based games is like it's hard to pay attention because like you're
distracted,
so immersed in the fucking world, and especially when story shit is going on like in combat. Like so like the very first part of this game starts out, you're playing as, you know, this character Sidar or whatever. You're told, and it's very similar to the fucking Archium start in 2033, where you're just like, hey, your turn, you know, go out there and go, you know, protect the town, you know, and whatnot. And then you get this attack that happens, you know, all these Nasalas show up, you're on a mounted gun, you're firing away, and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, which again, those mounted gun sequences, every single one of them, I had so much fucking fun. Like they just feel so good to be behind a mounted gun and whatnot.
Yeah, no, those ones are cool. I mean, they repeated a couple of times, but it was one of the few times where it's like, that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's the start of the game. Kind of time advances about 10 years forward. Like Spence is saying, there's like, I'm pretty sure the dude's name is Alex, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, one of your buddies is basically telling you like, yeah, your wife's kind of going off the fucking handle. You know, like what's going on with her. Sidar, the character you're playing as, is a doctor. You provide your wife medications and whatnot because she has visions of her dead son of 15 years. And, you know, these meds help and whatnot. So like, so the very first portion of this game is like you exploring around like the hub zone and all the NPCs that exist there. Like you finally come across your wife after like a chapter or whatever, and like she's literally breaking all of like the pipes in this one particular area and whatnot, you know, because she's hearing the voices of her child and shit. And like Sidar's just like, why are you off your bed? She's like, I threw that shit away. You know, he's
like, God damn it, woman.
God damn it. You know, exactly. He's just pissed. You know,
yeah. Like, how am I supposed to bring you back to the town? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, everybody knows about you. Everybody's pissed. Like, please stop. You know, just take your fucking meds. And that's like basically the start of this game, and your whole point of this game is just like, yep, gotta find Yana some meds. You know, like gotta go into the med. But the shit that unfolds over the course of the story is actually pretty interesting. So
yeah.
I'm looking at some of my notes just to kind of see Spencer's words about the game having a lot of like same, you know, like going through the same areas like over and over and whatnot is absolutely true. And that kind of mirrors what I was saying earlier of like how I really wish that this had like more of an Exodus style to it, where, you know, we had different environments and whatnot. The environments that exist here again are wonderful. I mean, they remind me exactly of 2033 and Last Light, and they are hyper detailed, but you do go through the same areas over and over, you know.
You know, and sometimes this is what kind of reminds me of like why these games are in a sense half price games, you know, because, you know, generally when like a VR game comes out, like you know, like they're $30. It's kind of weird, but like they always exist at a much different price range. The ironic thing though is they don't go down in price for very much sale. You know, like a sale on a VR game would be like $20.
Yep.
You know, that'd be like, oh, that's a good sale right there. You don't see that often.
Yep.
You know, but it's sort of like that's why it would be interesting to see someone just really double down on a VR game. You know, because that's the thing. It's like all these games, and it feels like in a sense, like even though this game's great, because it's kind of on a little bit more limited budget, it's kind of like, well, just reuse some of those areas a little bit. Well, make, you know what I mean? Like here's some elements from Metro 1 and 2, you know what I mean? You can kind of incorporate that into your VR so you don't have to draw anything extra. Yeah. You know, so it has a bit of that where once again, it's that thing that I think about. It's just I guess Half-Life Alyx is a perfect example of like where a major company dumps some money onto it because they can. I kind of wish there'd be a little bit more of that. Like you almost need like some like I always kind of felt like it's like someone like Nintendo. If Nintendo did VR, because Nintendo is good about making a feature and being like, no, you will use this.
Yeah.
They're not like Sony that makes a cool feature and then goes, oh, you guys didn't like that? Oh, okay, well, we'll never use that again. You know, because that's like how every controller's been since like the PS3.
Oh, yeah.
Since the PS2, take that back. They've always put in some like new feature and then like 3 games use it feels like, and that's it. It's like on PS2, they had like the pressure sensitive buttons. Oh, the Metal Gear Solid and Gran Turismo. I don't remember any other game really using those.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and PS3, they had that like, 6-axis thing or whatever. Oh, then Uncharted 1, I don't remember any other game using that. PS4,
Warhawk.
They had, Warhawk had it. PS4, they had the little touchpad thing that, like the initial couple games, you could like select your weapon wheel from it.
Yep.
Couple years later, no other game ever used that again.
Yep.
The PS5, the clickable joysticks with like the trigger, first couple games use it. They stopped using that right off the bat. Like the Sony's terrible about that. Like that's even like their VR. It's like they put the VR up there, they put like 4 games on it and be like, oh, that's about all we got.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. No, nothing else to say to that. That's fucking 100% true.
I always wanted the PS2 VR just for the hell of it, but it's like the only games that are unique to it is like Resident Evil 4 remake and like 8 and like 2, like a Horizon game and Gran Turismo. That's the only things that are like different for that. There's not they never double down on it. But I'll say this: if Nintendo did it, Nintendo would force you to use it like on all their games, and you would like it.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. That is Nintendo.
You know what I mean? It's like that stylus. You're gonna use that stylus. That Wiimote, you're gonna love the Wiimote.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right, so back to story, I guess. Again, trying to find medicine for our wife.
Yana.
And I'd say that I wrote this down in my notes. Like this game really feels like it is split into 3 parts, and it's so ironic that I played this in three fucking sessions because. So basically, like from the point of like starting the game to understanding that we got to find our wife some medicine, we start exploring metro tunnels and blah blah blah. We're being guided by that Alex character, and which I'm pretty sure that's his name, or maybe Alexi or something like that.
Yeah.
There's I forgot her name. There's a second character. That's constantly talking to you on the radio, but that is pretty much the trigger point where she comes into play. That feels like Act 2 for me and whatnot. And then by the time we start to kind of understand, like making the connections of like the name that we'll reference here soon of like who this character actually is, through the last like cult sections of the game and whatnot, that feels very much like Act 3, like the final section.
Yeah, when you meet Petya or whatever, like that seems like that's like the Act 3 part. When you get the boy and you gotta show him through, and he's scared of the light. It's like, dude, you're not the one that has to go out and shoot these monsters.
Yeah. I think the piece that confused me the absolute most, that I am most curious about in this game, is it's the cult stuff. We've heard in the other Metro games, we've heard about the worm faction or whatever, and they're just a bunch of crazy fucking people that think that some giant worms are the ones that created the metro tunnels and that they're gods and blah blah blah, and like it's just fucking wild. We learned
a little too much Dune.
Yeah, exactly. We hear and we see a lot about that cult in this game, but I don't think the game does a very good job at explaining any of it. I was lost this entire time. I'm still lost.
I'm going to say this too, is in the beginning of this game, you would literally find notes like you do in all the other Metro games that explain stuff. Literally probably by like Act 2, I never found another one of those notes ever again in the game. Like it's almost like that note system went away, which I felt like that could have explained, because that's generally in any survival horror game or anything like that. That's mostly where you get like a lot of your background and lore is when you find those notes and you look through that and you go, oh, okay, that's what that's explaining here. Oh, that's what the virus is. Oh, that's explaining the cult, but after a while, like, I don't know why. It's like that's like a feature they started off doing and then they just kind of gave up on it. Like,
yeah. Well, and I'm trying to make a connection to this cult in general, it's like, okay, so it is a prequel, you know, so this happens way before all of Artyom shit happens.
Yeah.
The only connection that I can make is that I overheard, as I was sneaking through an area, I overheard one cult person talking to another cult person about how much they hate technology. And I'm like, is it the fucking crazy people in the Volga from Exodus? Like, you know, is this, you know, like they're, you know, is this the precursor for them or whatever?
But
I'm like, what?
these people are almost so primal compared to even the ones in Exodus.
I know.
Because you know the whole way through too, you keep getting these like almost like visions, I guess you would sort of say, where like pretty much like between like a chapter's loading screen or something like that, you'll get like sort of knocked out or whatnot, and you see this like giant altar, you know, and there's some guy up there with a big old like, you know, a Baron Samedi mask on and whatnot, and he's giving a speech and whatnot, and you see all these bones and stuff hanging, which actually I gotta say that really quickly, the violence and gore in this game is so good. Like as you're just walking, like that was a lot of the stuff that I was studying, is there just be dead bodies everywhere and just hanging and bones and everything, and you're just legitimately looking at this and just going like, dude, they put some detail into that.
Oh yeah,
you know, and that's the thing. Is like even in like a regular game, like let's just say if I was playing another Metro game, there might be detail like that, but I just can't physically just look at it up and down the same way you can in VR and just study it.
Yeah. There is a scene early. It's the first time we see a Nasalis, and we don't even see the Nasalis. We just see the silhouette of it or the shadow of it or whatever. There's a light flashing in this room, and he's munching on something, and you finally like go around that because it scurries off, you know, and it's like setting up like the tone of the area or whatever. You skirt your way around this corner, you're looking at what he was chewing on, and it's a body, you know, like it's just a person or whatever. But I was able, again, you know, crouched down, really got really close to it, and like the amount of fucking detail, and just like he's half this dude's face is missing, his eyeballs barely hanging out, you know, just like by a little bit and whatnot. The blood that's pooling up on the ground around him, like the stickiness look of it all, and like, you know, just all the shit. It's so fucking good, man. So good.
That the visual gore in this game is great.
And it's constant. It never ends. Like,
and I feel like you just it's not like it repeats either. Like you just keep going like, oh, dude, somebody artistically put together a new dead body for me to look at.
Yeah. Especially with all the cult stuff, you know, like you were saying, like seeing the bodies on the wall, like hanging and things like that, you know, and like all of it's like, you know, just trying to deter away, you know, others from like entering these areas and whatnot, you know. So yeah, super fucking cool. Super cool. But yeah, like I was saying, like that was pretty much the biggest piece of the game that like really did not register with me, was the cult stuff. I appreciate them. Like I really, you know, like they're cool to fight and whatnot. They remind me a lot of the Children of the Forest in Exodus. They kind of act just like that, you know. So that was kind of the other connection point too, is just like behavior wise, like they kind of behave the same. So I was like, is there a commonality there? Is that something, you know? So, but yeah, I don't really know what else to say about the cult stuff. It's just it's just weird.
It's a major part of the game, but like, yeah, like I still was kind of confused because the whole point is that like the cult has captured Yana or whatnot, your wife, and they got her up on this, you know, sacrificial altar thing, and you keep seeing glimpses of it, you know, as you keep getting closer and closer, you know, and then at some point, like literally they knock you out and you're like in a cage and Yana's there next to you, and when you see her getting dragged off, and then you can't seem to get to her in time. Of course, you're able to break out of your cage, which I thought was kind of a cool one too, because it's just one of those ones where you're just kind of testing, like I just grab it, oh whoa, I just actually broke that off.
Yeah. And that's, again, you know, just like these like little detail things. So like Spence says, like we're stuck in that cage. You can grab the cage, like I mean, like, you know, like there's animation where your hands hold on to the bars and whatnot, and like you see that there's a lock on the bars, and like Spencer, you just shake a little bit and whatnot, that lock breaks and falls off, and it's just like, oh, like it's just like one of those like dopamine hits to the back of the head. It's just like, oh, that felt good. You know? So
yeah, I'd expect that to happen, and it did.
Yeah, this is one of those types of games that it's just like you're gonna have to play it to like fully understand, you know, like even the small amount of the story bits that I was able to pick up in this game, because really what this all like evolves into is that, you know, you find out that Yana's son or whatever, like died, is like 15 years dead. Yana's your wife. You've known her for a certain amount of time. This kid Petya has no idea who the hell you are and whatnot. You're constantly referred to as Genghis in this game and whatnot, and it's like, fucking why? Petya, like, I don't know. I actually really like the Petya section. So this whole time, Sidar, like, has the character that you play as, has this really unique ability to see spirits and see basically what we learned about in the old games, like the Dark Ones and things like that. Like he's got these special abilities to be able to see things. And I really liked the whole Petya side of things because you're literally following around a little ghost boy, and trying to convince him that you're good, that his mother, you're going to take him, back to his mom and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, like, you're searching for Yana this whole time. Petya thinks he knows where mom is because he can hear her, like in his own head or whatever. Meanwhile, like, Yana's caught by this group that we've been talking about, this like weird cult group. And I thought that this whole section, like the final pretty much act or whatever, I thought was actually really, really good. It was emotional, especially towards the end when you connect those two characters together and whatnot, and like that was like I wanted to have a tear over that one. I was like, that was good writing. That's good voice acting. That's good, like really felt good about all that.
Well, the cool thing too is the writing is from the original dude that wrote the novels. I still like that how he's really involved with this because so many other projects would have done that thing where like, we got it from here, See you later, Dmitry. You know what I mean? Like, and that's it. We'll send you a check in the mail.
Yeah.
And I like how he's still like involved in all these games.
Yeah. Yeah. Similar too, because like this is Vertigo Games, like the development studio that did this. 4A was still very much a part of this game, providing them with like assets and shit like that, like guidance, help, lore bits and whatnot. Like you said, Dmitry was like the writer of the story and all that. So this is very much a Metro game. Like it's bona fide Metro game that was just happened to be developed by a VR specific studio. I guess really like because you keep having these visions and whatnot. You constantly keep seeing your wife on this sacrificial altar. There's like probably like 3 or 4 scenes of that, like where you get knocked out or something happens to, like in a combat scenario or whatever, you get knocked out and like you have these visions. And there's like this cultist leader with this bone mask on or whatever. And I mean, unless there's anything else you really want to talk about, I'll just kind of skip to the cage part at the end or whatever.
Because that's kind of about it. Because from this point on, the law, like the Act 3 is very story oriented stuff. There's a lot of like chapters that go by kind of fast because you just kind of listen to people talking and so on like that. You get a couple more combat scenes, is where you pick up the shotgun finally too. Because you actually get the shotgun way late in this game as well. But when you get it though, it feels satisfying because it's like, oh, okay, it makes the shotgun feel like a real powerful weapon. Like it's almost your BFG for this game. That you're gonna go in there and be like, okay, now I'm fully loaded and whatnot. Because beyond all that, then you get the blowgun or whatever, which I did make the mistake of like, well, I didn't make a mistake, but I pulled it up and you literally blow. You're like, that's not how it works. It's a button. If it was a game, you'd probably blow on it. It'd be like with the microphone on the DS.
Yeah, exactly. And that thing is actually really rad too, because like I said, it is stupid overpowered. Like a Nasalis, which man, we didn't even really talk about like enemies.
It's overpowered, but it's one of those ones that still is. It's you have to manually reload it each time.
Yeah. I had a billion fucking blow darts on me at any given point, so like I was using it constantly, and like that basically it's like a 2-shot to a Nasalis. Any one human enemy, if you hit him anywhere in the chest up, it's a 1-shot. Like it's just stupid easy. But anyways, so there comes a point where your Petya is trying to get you to back to his mother, and you get captured. And this is kind of like one of the like final-ish cutscenes in the game and whatnot. But you get thrown up into a cage. You had just cleared like this whole fucking camp too, especially like essentially, and like you get put into a cage, and then all these cult people show up again and whatnot. You get hoisted up a little bit. you're looking back at that altar table that you've seen the entire fucking game. Your wife Yana is like laying on there or whatever. The cult leader comes up. He starts doing his speech about blah blah blah. You know, like the worm, and basically just like straight up kills Yana. You know, just stabs her ass right there. The kid Petya also had. So this is where I should have fucking known who we were playing as this entire time and whatnot. So there's a scene where that kid pulls out a fucking bandana. It's a red bandana, and he's sitting there, and like, you know, your character Sadar, you know, asks him about that. It's just like, oh, that's your mother's bandana, and blah blah blah, you know, and whatnot. So after that's to preface this next piece, the show like why I figured out like why this character is who he actually is. So after Yana dies or whatever, like eventually you get out of the cage, you kind of fight your way out and blah blah blah, you kill some things. And then eventually like you meet Petya with his mother, and it's like in this like open air area and whatnot. And I'm really surprised that they didn't allow us to go to the surface at all. This is probably the closest that you can get to the surface. It's like it's the train station for the metro, and like you can see the outside, you can see
there's some snow
light,
coming down,
you know, whatnot, but you can't physically go there. Anyway, so you finally pair those two together and whatnot. Petya hands you the bandana or whatever, and then you have this like third person scene where the camera pulls out of your character or whatever. The dude like puts the bandana on and whatnot, and then finally becomes, as I mentioned earlier, he's been referred to as Genghis this entire time, and I didn't want to say the actual name, but Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
And
well, they kept saying Khan, and I for some reason I didn't put two and two together either. I'm like, oh, okay, Khan, yeah. As I said, since I've only played the games a few times, I guess that's also too. It's just one of those ones that just didn't register for the longest time.
Yep. As soon as he put on that bandana, and he states, he goes, you know, like essentially like I've accepted my new name of Khan and whatnot. And it was just one of those click moments where, and it was super good. It was a really good feeling, but going, oh shit, that is fucking Khan from the trilogy. Like, what? This is his origin story. Oh my God, you know, like so fucking cool. So cool. I just wish that some of the story stuff would have made a hell of a lot more sense, but to be in his shoes for 10 hours, you know, was super cool. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like no matter what, it's like the game itself was neat. The story still kept me going, even though I feel like, yeah, there is a lot of questions. Like, I'm not really too sure why that cult group sacrificed Yana. Like, what was bored on a Tuesday? Like, what's going on here? Like, you know, because once again, there's not a whole lot of explanation. The lady that you're talking to on the radio, do you ever actually run into her?
No, I mean, outside of you run into her ghost or whatever.
Well, I guess that's right. She was a ghost. Yeah. So we did that.
But yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, you never run into her exclusively.
Yeah, there's just a lot of that kind of stuff where, like, yeah, it's just kind of there, you know, because there is a lot of those, like, where you're just running through the metro, talking on the radio and so on like that, and just getting a little bit of extra information.
Yep. No, maybe you do run into her. Is she the one that she's always there's like two scenes of it where she's like there's a female character, and she's like standing as you're walking through a metro tunnel. She's like standing up on this elevated platform or whatever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Looking down at you at the very beginning of the game.
I'm curious.
Is that who that was? Was that maybe that's who it was? Yeah. Because sometimes, like, when you initially kind of come into these games, it's like you kind of like, okay, piece these characters together, but you haven't really made a full-on connection with it yet.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'd be curious now, especially like to go back. Like I'm probably not going to play this again for quite a while. Like,
well, that's the thing is like if it had a new game kind of plus thing, and you got to keep like that silenced pistol or something like that, you know, because that sounds like the only downfall when you don't have like those extra upgrades or anything like that is sometimes it kind of like makes the new game plus. Not saying you couldn't play the game over again. Of course you could, but like, you know, you feel like you're missing out on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I'll play it again anytime soon. I'm very glad that I did now that I have the context. But I'd be really curious to see like what a second run of this would feel like, you know, like, and not in terms of gameplay, it's kind of hyper exclusively about its story. Now that I know, you know, and now I can pick up on hints, you know, throughout, you know, the whole game and all that too. I'd be really curious to see like how my perspective would shift on this. because as much as I've watched videos and whatnot, not there. For one, there's not a whole lot of data about this game out there, anyways. You know, the few videos that do exist, the one video I sent you, I thought was like really good.
Yeah, that was a good one because that guy went in depth for about an hour.
Right. But I still have questions, you know, like, and there's still
well, because even on his, it's like he goes in depth on like, you know, everything from gameplay and all that kind of stuff. But like even story wise, it's there still is a lot more.
The weakest part of the game for sure is its story.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, I'll say this, even like when I played Metro 1, it did take me like the game started to sink in more by the time Metro 3 kind of came around story wise. It's sometimes just that thing that you got to play a game multiple times, you know. Yeah. I mean, it was even like when I played Halo back in the day. Like the first couple times I played through it, I still was kind of confused on the story. I was just like, okay, Space Marines versus Space Terrorists. That was at the very end of the day. And it's like as time went on, it started sinking in more and more and more. Yeah. You know, so ironically, sometimes you can have games that seem to have a little bit more simpler stories that can almost be way more complex in remembering.
Yeah,
like what's going on. And I think that's kind of it here. So it's like if I went back and played through all 4 of these games once more, I think it would absorb a lot better that next round through because you just have more context. You know who these characters are and so on like that. But overall though, just game wise though, super solid experience. Probably one of the best, you know, VR ones I've played so far out of all of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Out of, I mean, this is easily my number 2. Like, I don't know if anything's ever going to top Alex for me, to be honest, because like,
well, it's like if you think about like just Half-Life games in general, like they kind of hold like Half-Life 1 still holds the bar as like being like, you know, if you kind of had to choose the best first-person shooter of time, not like personal favorite, but just one that kind of just hit all the marks right. It still holds that position, being like, yeah, if people told me like that's the best first-person shooter of all time, I wouldn't argue it. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's one of my favorite ones.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And you know, I feel like Half-Life kind of hits that, you know, even 2, even though I think 2 is not nearly as good as like 1 is. I felt like something's kind of missing in that. But
yeah,
graphic wise and all that kind of stuff that 2 did, I think is it's still one of those very high bar games once again. So it makes sense that Half-Life Alyx is like taking the high bar stance to that.
Well,
you know?
well, the way that I've always, the way you have to look at Valve, especially with their releases and whatnot, is that every release pretty much is hyper unique. In the Half-Life universe, I should specify. Half-Life 1, narrative-driven FPS. Not a whole lot of games were doing that back because you think of
no
Doom, you think of Quake, you think of exactly. You know, like you're in Gordon Freeman's shoes the entire time. Always have control. Hyper unique. Half-Life 2, physics.
Physics and graphics. Just
gravity gun, graphics, source engine, all that. Hyper unique.
Yeah,
there's a reason why Half-Life 3 really doesn't exist. And I'm frankly, I think Half-Life Alyx is Half-Life 3 in terms of that, you know, where it's groundbreaking. I genuinely don't think there's another VR game out there better than that because that game was specifically designed for VR, for the Valve Index. And Valve has always had that mentality of like, if they're gonna do it's, I mean, at least seemingly, if they're gonna do Half-Life, like they're gonna use a new piece of technology. I think Half-Life 3 will probably come out the day that Neuralink becomes like a commercialized thing, you know?
Yeah. When you could have a legitimate, like completely, because in a weird way, like since Half-Life 2, video games really haven't changed a whole lot.
No.
I mean, the minor stuff, yes, but not like the overall gameplay, like the core gameplay stuff, still very similar to that, you know?
Yeah. I think that with Half-Life Alyx being out there, it makes me very, very happy that games like Metro Awakening can exist. Because if somebody didn't push that bar, you know, to make such a phenomenal VR game like Valve did, games like this just wouldn't exist.
Though I will say that Arizona Sunshine actually predates Half-Life Alyx by 4 years, and that's was pretty. I mean, granted, I am playing the remaster, so they might have fixed some things in there, but that one is. I was pretty surprised at how dialed in that game was for being like an older VR title.
Yeah. I think, but what Alyx is doing is like it does have the narrative that is cohesive and is like it's a Half-Life game, you know, and like the world, the environment, the amount, just being able to pick up a fucking pen and be able to write on a window and shit like that, you know, just the amount of crap that they thought about. But again, I think really what Alex did for the industry is that it allowed games like this. Because yes, Vertigo games did have, Arizona Sunshine prior to this. They had a lot of lessons learned throughout that. But there's also a ton in this game that I can directly mirror to Alex, where it's like, yep, they totally thought of that feature probably because of that game and whatnot,
Yeah.
So I'd say in general, like this is probably I think this is my least favorite Metro game for a narrative side of things, but is probably my most favorite Metro game mechanically. And it's a really weird mix between that,
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is like when you play a game in VR, once again, it's like you can't help but think about like, dude, just imagine playing the other three in VR. Like it would make the experience so much better,
you can imagine
because
Exodus in VR. Oh my god,
so good. It's just because I think that's kind of the next step that kind of VR kind of needs to get is where you can just take pretty much like take a top tier regular video game, but just have it 100% in VR.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have the best of both worlds, because that's kind of it, where a lot of these VR games, they're like in a weird way. Like when I think about like the Quest, it's like the equivalent of like, it's like the Game Boy of nowadays. It sounds strange to think of it like that, but it's kind of like in that category of gaming. It fills in that like where the games are a little bit kind of older looking, but they're trying new features with them, almost like a DS or something like that,
Sure.
But if you can kind of get it to where it is running like just straight up, like this game's no different than your console counterpart. It just happens to be all in VR, and once again, it's the thing too, is if people just double down on it. And I get it. Like it is kind of a hard market because, a VR unit costs, the same price as a console, if not more, especially nowadays. I think with the new Valve one, it's like, this is not even going to be free. It's like $1,200, it's just like, there it is, take it or leave it. So it's like, it kind of is like out, like, priced the average gamer, so I think that's kind of like, I think if they could get it to the point where like it was just literally like a pair of glasses you slapped on and they just almost like wirelessly connected to whatever system you were using, and so they didn't cost more than maybe a couple $100, that made it pretty, like, it's in a sense like it's like the equivalent of buying like 2 other controllers, what I mean, like that's all you're really buying. I think that's where it will kind of be cool, where people could enjoy it more, because it's something about it, like, once again, these first-person shooter games, like, it's one of those ones you just want to, like, share it to other people. Like, dude, you got to try a game out in first-person shooter on this. Like, it literally almost kind of makes other first-person shooters seem kind of obsolete. It's like, just like when we're playing, like, the Halo remake, I picture that, like, dude, just imagine Halo if it was a VR one. Like, and,
I've seen the mods for it.
Yeah, I mean, if people put all kinds of great mods together, so it goes to show that it's not as hard to do. But it's like one of those ones, like, since Microsoft and like Meta did have kind of like a connection there for a moment, like, why don't they just do like a specialty? Hey, here's Halo 1, but remade in VR for the Quest, or something like that. Kind of like what they did for Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
for Capcom.
I think it's literally just due to how niche it is. I mean, like the fact that, like I said at the start of this episode, like, the final, like, you will get this achievement if you complete this game, like the final one, having a 13%, one tells me, like, this game didn't sell very well to begin with, because of its nicheness, likely. And 2, the people that did play it probably aren't there to sit through a 10-hour game, because, like, I mean, I don't know how fast you actually beat this, but mine legit took about 10 hours.
Yeah, mine was probably about, give or take, somewhere between that. I'd say maybe 8-ish or so hours. I probably beat it like myself as well in like maybe 4 or 5 days. It wasn't a super long one. But I'll say this about VR, because I know that I've done this myself many a times. I've gotten a lot more VR games than I've completed. So I do a lot of, like, you test things out, you play them for like a handful of hours, and you go on another game. So I'm guessing that probably happens to more people, where they try out a lot more things than they kind of get around to. And once again, one of the biggest downfalls to me is, like, and it's the same thing you have too, is that we just too many games on the table, so let alone you got your normal systems, you got your PC games, you have your retro video games, you have your handheld video games, then you have your VR games, so I think that's what gets, if that was the only thing you had was like, so just say you just had only like a Quest, you would max out every single one of those games on there. You know what I mean? It's like, I always think about that. There's something to be said about the person who only owns one console. The downfall is, you don't get to play a whole lot of, the other varieties. But the fact is that the games you do get, you get the maximum benefit out of. Like if you were just a Nintendo only gamer, you get the maximum benefit out of all that stuff, and you get enough things to take care of you. You know, you don't get distracted with everything else.
Yeah, exactly. There's one other piece of this game that I want to talk about before we wrap it up. We didn't talk very much about enemy types in this game, and not that there's like a huge variety of them, but there is one recurrent motherfucker that comes back from.
Yeah, there's one major one we also missed. Yeah, we didn't talk about it all in this thing.
Yep. Well, I'll talk about mine real brief. So spiders are back, baby.
The spiders, and they're actually like one of the most interesting ones because of the way they interact with your VR-ness.
Yep.
And the pain in the ass they are too.
So I knew that there was going to be spiders in this game for the fact that when you first fire up the game, it goes, "Hey, arachnophobia mode. Do you want this on or off?" And I was like,
"You want this on, pussy?" I hate to sort of say it when I see those kind of signs and be like, "I'm not a little bitch." Like,
right.
Yeah, just show me the spiders.
So obviously, I played with them on, you know, so like the enemies were in the game. But according to that video that I sent to you or whatever, you probably heard it too. They just removed those enemies out of the fucking game. Those sections must be so boring, dude. Like just
nothing.
Just nothing to do. But these things, man, like I was expecting them to be like what's in Exodus, you know, where you have the torch, you know, your headlamp or whatever. To be able to like, I thought that was that type of enemy, like the spider scorpion looking things. Right. I thought that's what I thought they were. Because they do brighten up when you hit them with the flashlight or whatever. It's like the little green stripes that they have on them or whatever. Like they brighten up when you hit them with the flashlight. And I couldn't tell if I was actually doing damage or not. Obviously I wasn't. But first encounter of those things were actually fucking pretty good. They were pretty scary. I was like, damn. You have to like, so you know it's coming. So you pull out your backpack, you pull out your lighter, and there's like a mesh, you know, of like spider webs across this wall or whatever. And what a cool animation, dude. Wherever you put that lighter, regardless of top right corner, top left, middle, whatever, like a circle starts from there and burns outwards, you know, from that point. It's so fucking cool. Looking right in front of you. But then you walk up to this door and like, that's a whole other feature we forgot to talk about is like the charging of doors, you know,
because you pull out the little cords, clip it up, and then you go wind it up, charge the door.
Yep. And these are all things that existed in the previous games that were just single button presses. And again, like it's just so unique to be able to pull that thing out, attach it, wind it up, you know, open the door, turn on the power, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so you do that. And then like, you know, as you're doing that, the door unlocks, you know, and you kind of like look to the left and one of those things just jumps at the window and just like, it reminds me of like Alien, you know, like the, you know, hugger, you know, things like to the face.
It actually reminds me a lot because there's that Alien VR game or whatever, and those face huggers. When one of those jumped in my face for the first time in VR, because all I saw was its belly and its little like you know wiener like claw thing poking at you, like rip it off, unload the gun.
So these things like actually screwed me a few times. They're one
of the hardest enemies, even though they almost shouldn't be.
Right. So they almost exclusively exist in areas where you have to be wearing a gas mask. So that's a whole other feature we forgot to mention too. Is like, you know, the gas mask feature.
And you can wipe it with your hand. So you go around looking like John Cena.
That is so cool. I love it. You're like just walking around, condensation building up or blood or whatever, you know. And again, in the other games, you hit a button, Artyom wipes his mask. But in this game, it's like you take your hand and you physically wipe it. Super fun.
And I'm glad I never smacked myself in the VR head with the controller.
Okay, yeah.
I was waiting for that to happen. It never did.
Yeah.
You just John Cena it, you know. Yep. You can't see me.
Yeah. But you know, so these spiders exist in these like heavily radiated areas. You have to wear your gas mask. You have to, you know, the same thing as the other games, filter change outs, 3-minute timer on your watch, you know, the whole shebang. But what's neat about these monster types is like, so there's larger ones that you physically kind of roam around the world and whatnot, you know, and then there's like smaller ones that you can physically see in the world too. But what they do is they have this mechanic like where they'll attach to a hand or like So if you want to pull out your backpack, for example, or whatever, it won't allow you to pull out your backpack because you got the spider sitting on top of your hand or whatever. And it's like you got to use your other hand to grab it, pick it up, throw it against the wall, and pull out your backpack.
You can also
real
just
quick.
slap it. I realize you can just slap the thing.
Oh,
on
you
your
can just
hand.
smash it.
Yeah, because that's what I did.
Okay.
I just went bam, and it just would get off me.
Which is fucking panic inducing. So just put yourself into a scenario. You're in a dark hallway. There's green glowing mushrooms all around you. There, you hear the scattering scurriness of spiders moving around the environment. You finally see one. One shows up in front of you. It drops from the ceiling, lands on the floor in front of you, and you go, shit. And you go like you try to grab your shotgun. Your character won't grab his shotgun. What happened? Your hand comes in front of you. There's a spider on top of it. Meanwhile, that thing is still coming at you. It's dark. It's scary. Your flashlight is dying. You can't grab your fucking primary weapon. You go, shit. You grab that spider. You slap him against the wall. You pull out your primary. You go like this. All of a sudden, your light goes out. And, oh, shit, now I can't see. Pull out your backpack. Grab the little charger kit. This thing is still coming at you this whole time. Blind up real quick. Like pull out your shotgun. Shoot him down. Blah, blah, blah. It's the culmination of all these things, and it's constant throughout this game. That's just like one example, but like it's the culmination of all these things that are just so good. The way that they intermesh a monster type with an environment, with panic features like your gas mask, and these things will jump on you. And this screwed me a few times. I died to radiation 3 times in this game due to this. Spider's in front of me. He jumps, he lands on my head, right? And he does that scurry animation where he runs over to the side of my head so I can kind of see his tail or whatever. Yeah. And then he scurries around the other side, and now he's right in front of me. You can grab him with your hand and throw him off you. So I did that, and then he jumps again, and I miss him, and I grab my mask, and I didn't realize it. And I grab my mask, and I throw my mask down. And then he's like still crawling around. I grab him, throw him off, and I'm shooting him. And all of a sudden, Sadar, Khan, whatever, starts going. The radiation. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I look at my watch. It's like static at 3 minutes, and I'm like, why? What is happening? What is happening? And then I finally realize it. Like, I'm pulling off my mask, trying to rip the fucking spider off. So that screwed me a few times.
See, and that's interesting that you say it like that, because I thought that spider was taking off my mask was what it was doing. I didn't, and maybe I did the same thing you did, and I ripped the mask off trying to get him off. Yeah, because I thought the spider would take the mask off, because it happened to me a couple times, and I have to pull the backpack back out and whip it back on. I thought that was a feature that the spider was doing, was ripping my mask off. Yeah, and maybe it was me throwing it off then too. But yeah, those parts were probably the most challenging. And then those spiders, they take a buttload of ammo too. You think that you would be able to go bam bam and it'd be dead? It'd be like, no, dude, they like suck like half a clip of like AK, and good luck hitting it with half that clip.
Yeah. Shotgun kind of seemed to be the most effective against them. However, those rounds are so precious, and I just did not want to use it against the spiders. Yeah.
Well, I want to say there's a section where you have to battle the spiders before you have the shotgun too.
Oh yeah,
because you come across them a couple times. So I want to say that I remember just only having the pistol and the AK at one point to fight them.
Yeah, I liked all those sections. Like, were just panic-inducing sections, and they were like talk about horror side of shit. Like that's where the horror side of this game definitely kicked into full gear.
This game is definitely, out of all 3 of them, this is the one that's got the biggest horror elements, and the fact that it only has realistically 3 mutant enemies in it. Just including the humans. That's all there is. And it's the thing too of just like, I just think about the little rat things that are like your main enemies you fight in the regular Metro games. Those are like, well, get out of my way. You know what I mean? Fodder. Like, yeah. And in this one here, it's like they're a pain in the ass, and you're like, they are scary. And those scenes where like you're standing in like those hallways and they're scurrying through like the air ducts and whatnot, and you're like, okay, I think I got them all. And then all of a sudden, a couple more come out, and you take a couple more of them out, and so on like that.
There's I think it's chapter like 8 or 9. It's like right towards the end of the game, or towards the latter half of the game or whatever. But there's that one scene where there's the ghost guy that's in front of the door that you have to walk past or whatever, and you're stuck in that room, and all I remember is like walking into that room and seeing a weapons cache right there, and there's like a billion fucking bullets, and it's like, what is about to happen? And the game must toss like 20 of those things at you. However, I was thinking right at the end of that fight, because it is that very minimalistic first starter fodder enemy, but like 20x of them, throughout that whole fight. I was like, why didn't they mix this up? Like, I mean, I know there's only so many mutants in this particular game, but like,
Yeah.
they should have thrown like a Nasalis in there, or maybe 2 or something, just to kind of.
Yeah, just to throw you off, like almost like I feel like a boss character came in after all those little rats.
Right.
I always kind of wondering if there was going to be like a librarian just in there, even if it was just like a runaway scene, because maybe you didn't really fight it, but it could have been a perfect one where you just you had to keep running away from it.
Yeah. I was expecting like the whole time, like, like think of the bear boss, from Exodus, or like something like that, the catfish from Exodus, like any of those.
Because
like,
there's no real boss battles in it.
But again, it's like it's things that Vertigo could 100% do on the next game. Again, this felt like proof of concept, for the most
part. That's
the
thing, is this one does have kind of like that. It has that little bit of a test run feel, yet it still is a full on legitimate game. In a weird way, it almost even kind of has like, it feels like if you just had a DLC for like Metro like 1 and 2, and then like you just see like, here's this cool DLC, and it just happens to be in VR. Like that's kind of how it sometimes feels.
Yeah. Well, I told you upon completing it, I'm like, this will never happen. But imagine if they did a full-fledged like Metro game, like think like Exodus style, close to the 20-hour mark, VR, but Sam's story part 2. Like, just go to a brand new continent, like a character that we kind of know from a DLC, and just full on bore. You know
what, that'd be the thing to do, is just do Sam and just do it when he lands in San Francisco or whatever, like the end of that DLC there, and just have it be a kind of a continuation of that. And you could have it where it starts off where like you could catch anybody up who didn't play it, so it can feel like a standalone game. But it's Metro in America.
Yep.
That would be the perfect way, and just treat it. Once again, I think that's the key thing, is that you just got to double down on your VR-ness. I know nobody really wants to do that too much right now. See, I feel like Half-Life Alyx can kind of get away with it because it's on Steam, because how many people probably bought that game and then like realized it's like, oh, I never got a VR yet. So, they can sell copies, but nobody's buying like Quest copies unless you have a Quest,
Right. Yep.
And same thing with PlayStation, probably not as much either too, because you can't get it on there, but But I know it's just one of those ones. But I can't wait to see more, because once again, it's like you see these games and you go, they're so good really as is, but then if you just imagine them combined with like the full-fledgedness of a regular game, you really would have something extremely special, and I think as time goes on, that might be the case with these VR ones, ones that kind of gets there. Ironically, you think if you get the price down, the downfall is the price just keeps going farther up. It's like, if VR is like 15 years ago, it was like a 20 or like a $2,000+ investment. Then it got down to being like, okay, like the Quest is kind of reasonable at like, 500 or whatever, $600.
Yeah.
Now it's back up to like, oh no, that's up to like $1,200 again. So just when you thought you could get one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Quest, I guess you can get the Quest S, whatever 3S is only like 300.
And that's a great value proposition for anybody that wants to get into VR. Like the Quest is 100% the model to go for, the device to go for.
But I think the 3S version, which is kind of like the stream down or the stripped down version of like the 3, I think really the only thing is it's just like a little bit less processing power, smaller memory. And I think that the resolution's not nearly is up there, but it's better than like a Quest 2, I guess, for that.
I'd say the only thing is with VR is like, unless you really like to like I love sitting back in my VR headset and like just watching YouTube and having like an infinitely massive screen in front of me, shit like that.
Movie mode's amazing.
Stuff like that, like if you're into things like that, even just web browsing, like viewing applications, like doing home tours, or going to Google Maps, Google Street View, and like being in VR and all that. Like if you have things like that in your life that you actually enjoy, that isn't all about gaming, a Quest 3S is fucking perfect. Because you get gaming features on top of it. Like I wouldn't buy a VR specifically for gaming per se. And it's really a shame, because like it's a really cool medium. I just don't think it's quite there yet. I'm hyper curious about Valve's, Steam Frame. regardless of cost at this point, I'm just looking forward to an updated Valve Index, because the Valve Index out of any VR headset that I've ever played with, controller wise too, is easily the best I've ever used. Granted,
Yeah.
I've probably have played, because I've done like HTC Vive, obviously the Quest 2. I checked out your Quest 3 a few times, or last time I was over or whatever. I'm trying to remember like what. There's one other version of a headset. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Some Chinese based one. But anyways, the Valve Index is like the perfect fucking device. So I'm really curious about this Steam Frame, to see like, can they make it more consumer friendly,
Yeah.
like, so anyways, but VR in general, like,
I know I'm very interested about that one too, because I don't know, the more I always use the VR though, the more I kind of do like it. As I said, like it, when I always try to tell people about, I'm like, you got to kind of be really into, like, especially you got to be kind of into modding, because I think modding's almost like one quarter plus of the elements that makes the VR really cool. And I know that, like, you tell it to the average person, be like, well, you just probably lost them at that point. But you combine in watching movies on there, because that was one of the main reasons I got to, is I really want it for like the movie thing. The only downfall is it just makes you the most unsocial bastard sitting in your house. You have it on. Like, it's the perfect thing if you're just like a bachelor pad, just like hanging out by yourself, and you're like not trying to share movies or anything of anybody else, or you take it to like a hotel and you just like kick back and hang out like that. That's where it's like kind of perfect. That's the downfall is like there's other people in your house. You just look like you're 100% like in your own world.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like I say, like, that's how I preface this. Like a full-time dad, like it's really hard to play VR. Because you can't see shit. You're in a world.
You literally just separated yourself. And I think that's always the thing too. It's like, even when playing the games, like it just doesn't feel the same as like, kicking back, turn the console on, grab a controller and playing a game. Like a VR, even though it's not really that much, it feels like you're always like, okay, let me get my position, get my feet on the floor so I know where I'm at, put the headset, you know what I mean? And then it makes you feel like you've done, for some reason, a little bit more. But I don't know. Like when I get into it, when I get like the games rolling, like when we're playing Metro here and so on like that, and then I started playing some other games while I was afterwards, and once you get kind of in that VR groove, we're like, okay, I am trying to use this like at least every other day or so. Then I start to get really into it and go, oh, man, I'm really actually digging this again.
So,
I mean, there's a bunch more like cool survival horror games and stuff like that they do have on the VR. Like it's like the Alien one. The Alien one's pretty sweet one. I need to finish that one. Like, as like so many VR games, I get like a third into them, and then like for some reason that's as far as I get.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm so glad that you brought this to the table. Again, I'm sorry that it spawned us having to go back and play through the original trilogy leading up to this.
That's okay though, because it all worked out, because all these Metro games were sitting in my collection with good intentions, but just never tried. It's even that too. I bought Metro Awakening. I'm like, I bought the fourth one. I just keep buying these games. I don't know if I'll ever get around to them, but I'll buy them.
No, I'm just glad that we have the context, because like I said, it was a really special moment at the end of this game when the character puts on the bandana and basically more or less says, like he's accepting his role as Khan, and like that click moment, as a gamer just completing that trilogy over the last few months and whatnot, and going like, fucking hell, dude. Yeah. Like that felt good. That was a good moment. So thank you. Thank you for doing this one.
Yeah, I'm glad we went through this one. And if anybody out there has the abilities of checking out the VR, whether it be PlayStation, PC, Quest, whatnot, like I definitely think this one's one of those ones to grab. And at least the upside is like once you do have the VR and once you finally get it, at least the games aren't that radically expensive. They're all like half the price of everything else. And even though they don't go on super sales the same way, at least you can still pick them up. You can still pick up a good handful of games for $100.
Yeah, I don't even. Okay, so this game, it's $30.
Yeah, that's its normal price. It's $30. I think I bought it on sale for like 20 or 22 or something like that.
Yeah. They even have like bundles. You can buy it with Arizona Sunshine and get bundle deal. There's actually a Thief VR game, so that might be an actual cool.
That Thief's made by the same company too. I saw.
Yeah.
So
it looks like
I have that on my wish list. Cool. Yeah, it looks like I was flipping through. Vertigo had quite a bit of games on, especially for the Quest at least.
Yeah.
They did quite a bit.
They did Fate Keeper too. Fate Keeper's a RPG style game I want to check out eventually.
Yeah.
But Anyways, yeah. No, I'd say check this out if you have access to VR. Like this is a no-brainer. Again, for me, and I'm not a massive VR type person, anyways. But I mean, for me and all the amount of VR that I have ever played, this is easily number 2, right underneath Alex.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'd probably say it's, since I haven't played my Alex yet, it's just sitting there in my Steam library. But it goes right after the Batman one. The Batman one, I think, has held the top tier for what I've kind of played. But this one right here is so good, you know. But yeah, there's a handful of those ones out there that I really do enjoy quite a bit. But
ranking though, what's your rank?
I would probably give this one. I'm gonna give it I would say an A, maybe. You know, I mean, you know, it's for the VR-ness. If it wasn't a VR game, I'd probably say it's more like a B. Yeah. But you know, I think ranking wise, an A would be kind of about what it is, because it is pretty top tier for the VR. It's got anything I just didn't care for in it. They're all like nitpicky things, you know, but they are also the things I think that keep it from being like. I think if you did have, once again, upgrade system, just a little bit more kind of like interaction, like as I said, being able to put the candles out with like your hands or turn the light bulbs, like just small things like that. And then if the levels didn't repeat so much, those are about the 3 main things that I think that would have turned this game into being like, oh man, this is a, you know, especially like, and once again, like I think probably doesn't help after playing Exodus, because Exodus, I think what I liked about so much is the environment changed continuously throughout the game, which that's like my favorite style, is that like you keep going, you're on an adventure in a sense, and you keep seeing different things. And I wasn't expecting this game to be that same way, but it would be kind of nice that you go, oh, I'm walking through the exact same subway station again. Hey, you know what I mean? At least even if we're always in the metro, at least have the metro kind of be different sections a little bit more often.
Yeah. Nope, I 100% agree with you. I'll just say this is an A tier VR game, a B tier Metro game.
Yeah,
still a great Metro game. Still fully. I was baffled that it connected to Archeum's story, you know, to an extent, and I wasn't expecting that. And again, that gamer moment, you know, when Khan's putting on the bandana, awesome. It felt so good. Don't really know a whole lot about this story. You know, it's hard to comprehend. It happened very quick over the course of 10 hours and whatnot. I'm very, very confident in that this is probably my least favorite Metro story, but again, my favorite Metro mechanical, just funness, you know. Maybe slots right underneath Exodus.
Yeah,
you know, like in terms of mechanics.
If I'm putting all 4 games together, Exodus probably still my favorite one out of all of them that I like the most. But no, I still like this one a ton. You know, it just got every single time I just busted out a couple chapters all in one sitting easily, and just, you know, was looking forward to seeing what happened next, and you know, what kind of creatures you're going to get, and you know, going from there. I just hope that they make, in a sense, like another Metro VR game, and just use this, because I think that's kind of what you need once again. You know, because a lot of times you flip through those VR, you know, catalogs, and there's a bunch of stuff you have no idea what the hell any of this stuff is. It's kind of nice to see some like names you recognize and go, oh, it's a Metro game, but in VR. Let's see what this is all about, you know. And since they got one established, why don't you go for a second one here, you know? And once again, I think the Sam story would be the cool way to go.
Hell yeah, Sam.
Hell, you can already play Bulletstorm on VR, and that has what's his face that plays Sam in it. I'm trying to blank all on his name. Spike Spiegel.
Oh yeah. I forgot his name too. You mentioned
Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom. There we go. Yeah. So it's like, you know what I mean? We can have him on there. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. Yep.
But
all I can really say at this point too is that after playing throughout this entire series and now the VR game, it just is making me more and more excited daily. Every day we get closer to 2039.
Yep.
It's just like
Metro 5. I'm getting excited. Yeah.
Cool.
That's gonna be sweet for next year or something like that. But yeah, beyond that though, check out more survival horror and just regular horror gaming good times, Silent Evil podcast and Old Man Orange podcast over at YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And we'll see you some other time.